Antoine is going to be crowned your WOR Season 10 champion.
And history's been made. Ballina, the first WOR PS4 champion. What a championship, what a season. Absolutely phenomenal. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to WOR. And what a pleasure it is to be back here on another fine Sunday evening, bringing you the hottest talent, certainly some of the best racing on the F1 2021 game. Tonight we are at the Suzuka circuit, the Suzuka International Circuit at Japan, and it's a pleasure to be here, folks, calling with you, like I said before, some of the greatest racing on the planet. But I'm not alone this time. I am, of course, George Morgan TV, or George Morgan, and I'm joined by Ginger Andy. Andy, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, George. Great to be here for another round of racing here in WOR. The opening round, well, we've got a lot to live up to. It was absolutely wild. And the duel in the desert, it was just chaos, wasn't it? It was a great race, that opener. And I'm sure we could be in for more of the same. We're at one of the classic tracks on the Formula One calendar, the wonderful Suzuka circuit with all its twists and turns. Yeah, it's one of the big five, I would say, in the whole of Formula One. So really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we certainly are. And naturally, the championship fight is going to continue. We've already had one round, of course, folks, and what a race it was indeed. Just having a note, actually, they're all calling for you to jump into spectate mode, Andy, to get us underway. So we'll have to double check.
I'm having a mare here. I'm having a mare.
No problem. He's on it, guys. Don't worry about it. But yes, folks, it's a pleasure to have you all here. And it's a pleasure. I mean, naturally, it cannot get much better than this. We've got some of the best drivers on the circuit, as I said previously, and we're going to be dashing around the Suzuka circuit. But last week was absolutely tremendous. Off the chain, off the scale. None of us predicted what we saw. But coming into the final 10 laps at Bahrain, things got a little bit harem-scarum, didn't they, Andy?
Yeah, they did get a bit harem-scarum. So much so that it looked like I wanted to get involved and join in with the racers today. But there we go, we're sorted now. I'm spectating as I should be. But yeah, it did get pretty harem-scarum, George. There was all sorts of action going on. Everybody was going for any and every move possible. Things got a bit over the top, you could say. I think that's fair. But no, it was still really enjoyable to watch for us commentators and the viewers as well. And yeah, I said last week, at the top of the show, we were looking for a pattern to see how this championship's going to go. We did not get that at all last week. Let's see if we get a bit of a pattern developing here today for round number 2. Yeah,
I mean, everything went against the grain last week. Strategy-wise as well, we were trying to pinpoint who had the optimal strategy. And when it looked like we had it sussed, oh no, we did not. The final 10 laps, it came down to a crippling end where all the drivers jumped on the soft tyres after the final safety car to then allow them to really chuck everything into the final few laps. And the drivers were just literally looking for a shotgun finish, trying to maximise their points potential. They literally threw everything but the kitchen sink at it, didn't they, Andy? It was sensational. And on the night, it would be Ruben Vallejo who would cross the line in P1 only for a penalty to creep up on him later on for Jake Benham to then turn around and be condemn the winner of that Grand Prix. I say condemned because that race was absolutely relentless.
Yeah, absolutely relentless. Of course, Ruben Vallejo even finding himself in a position to win that race was just ludicrous. He started on the back row. He didn't do well in qualifying at all. And then he ended up going on to cross the line first. But as you say, George, lost that victory for a move. I think it was on Dario Jumilo going down the hill through the S section in Bahrain. And that, of course, led to his penalty. So, yeah, it ended up being that Jake Benham got it, and he probably is one of the people we consider favourite for the championship, George. There is a few in there that we'd be looking at thinking, yeah, he could be a real contender, and certainly Jake Benham is one of those. But let's see how things pan out here at Suzuka, and wow, look at this, George. we have got some rain for the drivers to contend with here in Suzuka. Now that is really going to spice things up here in Q1.
Well, I was speaking to the drivers beforehand, Andy, and looking at it on paper, we were discussing who we thought the best prospects were for this race tonight. And I got to say, when I was speaking to Jake Benham prior to the start of the show, obviously earlier on today, we were obviously talking about, strategies, certainly looking at points for strengths or weaknesses in this race. Jake Benham didn't give himself a chance in hell going into tonight, was not enjoying the practice routine around this circuit, had very minimal practice, in fact, around the Japanese circuit, but turned around to me and said, George, if we get rain, I'll stand a chance. He has got a huge opportunity here now with the rain clouds being sprinkled, spread over the circuit of Suzuka. Could that provide him with the opportunity he's looking for?
Absolutely could, George. I mean, that's really interesting that he didn't fancy his chances tonight in a normal dry weekend. But of course, in the wet, it does create more margin for error. It creates more variability. It creates more opportunities for mistakes. And just but even the possibility, George, that it could be last man over the line goes quickest, that kind of thing. So, we'll have to wait and see. They'll have to keep their eyes on the weather. But what they always say, George, in the wet conditions is always be on the right tire at the right time. So to do that, the best thing to do is be out on the racetrack for as much of the time as you can, because sometimes it's all about gaining confidence. Not a lot of these drivers always practice in the wet conditions. They usually practice a lot in the dry. So, it might be a good idea to go out there and just fill the car up with fuel and just try and get to grips with the racetrack, because it's very rare that drivers go out and practice in the exact weather conditions of a wet Grand Prix, isn't it?
No, absolutely. It's different occurrences, do happen. We get a lot of drivers who maybe downplay their chances due to the mere reasoning that they may have chosen a different routine of practice. It might not be necessarily the conventional route that they take. Some like to work on the time trial aspects, some like to work on the race strategy, some like to work on the qualifying strategy. There are so many echelons when it comes to different variances of strategy or practice that come into play, certainly on a Grand Prix weekend. So naturally, it depends on who is most adaptable in situations such as this. Benham is one of those guys. He is capable across different conditions. He could still be the one to show up in P1 at the very end of this qualifying and race weekend. Looking further down as well, though, you've got plenty of other names in the fray. Antoine Desilewski, a formidable player as well. Not forgetting Shanaka Clay as well. We have yet to see the best from Shanaka at this moment in time, but he has been brilliant in the pre-season races. And naturally, I'm expecting a lot more from that man in the green livery, but there's plenty of others, including Alvaro Caraton, Samuel Lebert, Dylan Warren, HX4K as well, Andreas Dormeyer, Christian Sendel. What about that man? He's got a lot of potential in the Ferrari. Chana Kinchi, another relentless figure, and Liam Parnell. Loads across this entire group. But remember Thomas Harvey as well. He impressed us in pre-season, Andy.
Yeah, he really did. Yeah. There's so many drivers in the field, George, that have really impressed me in the early exchanges. And as you say, some that really haven't hit form yet at all. Shanaka Clay last week was having a bit of a struggle, wasn't he, in qualifying? But let's see what he can do today out there too as he crosses the line. He's about to start a flying lap in that Aston Martin. Obviously, you've got Cookie out there as well. Let's go and have a look at him. Let's see what he can do in the Haas. But at this early stage, George, they'll just be trying to find their way, find their rhythm, go exploring, and we might even see a few mistakes from time to time as the drivers push it to the absolute limit out there around this racetrack. Now, this, George, it really is one of the hardest circuits in Formula One. I mean, there is no margin for error. If you make a mistake and go wide, you're on the grass or you're on the gravel. It's very old school. There's no going off into the runoff area and coming back on very, very easily. There is a little bit of that at Spoon Curve, but everybody else in the racetrack, George, you really don't want to be going wide, because you're going to lose a lot of time or have a bit of a major accident, aren't you?
Yeah, you do not want to risk it for a biscuit, and Andy, certainly going around a track such as this when it's all so slick. The Degners obviously being some of the most ferocious high-speed corners in the game. A lot of drivers will obviously chuck the car into that double right-hander, but you can so easily lose it, and there's a very formidable gravel trap right next to it too, which you can see your car pretty much beached into that embankment, and so you've got to be very, very careful when you apply certainly your trade heading around those series of curves. But here comes Cookie now, and he's going to cross the start-finish line to commence qualifying here in Q1 with a 1:36.922. So he gets himself underway. Obviously, it remains to be seen as to whether that will be a top-end time. Obviously, in the early stages of qualifying, it tends to be a case that they set bankers and look to improve as they work their way through the session. But you've got to remember, with it being Q1, Q2 and Q3, this is very much an endurance test as well, Andy.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Pretty much endurance and just building your way into the qualifying section, building your way up. I felt that's what Alvaro Canadon did really well last week in Bahrain. Like in qualifying, he was just creeping up, building up, winding up, and then delivered an absolute belter of a lap on the medium tyre in Q2. And then we knew he was really meaning business when Q3 arrived and stuck it on pole position. So even more the case in these conditions, George, with the weather, just finding your time, finding your limits. Where's the puddles? Where do you aquaplane? Where is the grip on this racetrack? And I'm sure by the end of this Q1 session, the drivers will have got to grips. They're all extremely talented. They'll have got to grips with the conditions, and they will be pushing on to see who will be on top and who will be heading out. Of course, in WOR, in the top tier, we are, of course, running Q1, Q2, and Q3. The bottom 5 go out from qualifying 1. So, yeah, they're going to have to get to grips pretty quickly, George. Otherwise, they're going to be skating out of this first part of qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. Dario Mulo making his way up into P3. In fact, Dylan Warren taking the top end spot, instantly replying to the other times that we've seen on the board. Goes ahead of Cookie by near enough, well, just under a tenth of a second. In fact, now Cookie managed to slam himself back on top. An instant response there from the Haas, who opted to stay out for another lap. Knew he could find a little bit more time. Trumps Dylan Warren here in the early stages of qualifying here in Q1. Amazing stuff indeed to see the sparring happening straight from the get-go here in quali, looking to send a message. That's exactly what a lot of these drivers are looking to do, and amazing to see the Haas team taking the high spots. There's now Shanaka Clay crosses the line, Andy, at 136.393. Brilliant stuff.
Yeah, as we expected, the time's beginning to tumble as the drivers begin to go exploring, looking for the grip and getting more confidence. HX4K, though, he's not finding the grip and he's not finding any confidence. His confidence has taken a dent because he has lost the car. He's back going again. He's damaged the front wing. He lost it up at Dunlop curve and was in the gravel, and he must have been in the wall as well with that damage. But he is back running again, and he'll have to tiptoe back to the pits and head back out. Not what you want to be doing, George, early on in qualifying, denting your confidence in the wet conditions. And now, with only 10 minutes to go, by the time he gets a brand new front wing on that, he'll probably only have about 7 minutes to go before he starts a lap, and he won't even have a time on the board. So a little bit of pressure mounting for HX4K.
Yeah, and also Padman extraordinaire, Lewis Welch, making his way up into P4. Currently lining up on the top spot, though, Shanaka Clay still. Liam Parnell, what a visit as well for the Red Bull, notches himself up into P3. So a good start from him. Yari Fitz as well is out on track. He's still yet to set a lap time. There's plenty of others still waiting in the wings. Lenny Papinter visits the top spot as well. Well, near enough the top spot. Second place with a 136.732. We're starting to see more of them now etching into the 136s. Near enough in the 135s, in fact. Early 136s for Shanaka Clay. As now further down you can see already Caraton visiting us now in P2, just behind his esports compatriot Shanaka Clay. And Caraton will be delighted certainly to get Q1 underway with a positive start. Certainly tipped as one of the favourites heading into this race.
Yeah, he has, no doubt about it, George. Alvaro Caraton, the man with plenty of experience in the world of F1 esports, been there and done it. Well, you know, much of this field are trying to get to that point of racing in Formula 1 esports and getting with a team regularly and racing all the time. I think that experience could tell throughout the season, George, I really do. And I think we've seen signs of that last week with that great lap at the end of qualifying, as we touched on earlier. But yeah, Alvaro Caraton, 136.6 for his opening effort. We're still waiting on 6 cars to do a time. HX4K, as we mentioned, was off the track, make that 5. Yari Fitz left it. Valentin Brufair and Andreas Dormeyer yet to do a lap at the moment. But Yari Fitz is out there, George, in the Alfa Romeo now, and he's about to start a flying lap, but he's gone a little bit wide at the final couple of corners.
Yeah, obviously just trying to prepare himself, getting ready to get a lap into boot. Obviously just over 8.5 minutes to go here in qualifying. Christian Sendel knocked himself up into P2, a man I've had an experience of talking to on very frequent occasions. I have to say, one of the fastest rising stars in esports and league racing, certainly signed by Shazoo in recent months. Is going wide, Yari Fitz, obviously on a slowdown lap, not happy with his getaway, certainly on his hot lap, so he's going to be slowing down now. 140 set by him, just trying to get out of the way of the traffic. Further down you can see HX4K's on an out lap, lefted as well out in the McLaren, who did pass Yari Fitz just now. But I just want to see how Christian Sendel certainly looks like one of the strong upcoming talents who has risen up through many of the echelons, a lot of the tiers in league racing, and has now come home to roost today in Tier 1 of the PC League. He's a youngster with a huge bright future, and with a time of 1:36.511, only 0.2 of a second, just over a tenth of a second behind Shanaka Clay, it puts him in a great position, Andy.
Yeah, it does put him in a great position. Very impressive start to come straight out of the box in WOR Tier 1 and pop himself into second in Q1 as Louis Welsh on the pad, 1:36.192 to go to the top of the timings. I just love it that this guy's on a pad and he's able to fly the flag for those that race on a pad. So, you know, if you're watching and you're new to the Formula 1 games and you're just racing on a pad at home, a casual player, this is what you can achieve by being on a pad. You can race right up there with all those drivers who are on a proper rig, a proper steering wheel. It's magnificent, George. It's incredible what he manages. Obviously, just to give you folks an idea back home of the disadvantages, I mean, tyre wear's a lot worse on the pad, and just generally getting the turn in, it's a lot slower than on the wheel, but he's just incredible, isn't he, that he's able to match these guys. It's phenomenal, George.
Yeah, you give him a lot of credit. It's a different skill on the pad, naturally, and you don't have the force feedback. Anton Desaluski, not far away as well at the top end. Into P2, goes ahead of his teammate Shanaka Clay. In comes the all-star Jake Benham, though, who did want rain heading into this qualifying session. He now opts to cross the line. P1 from the all-star Jake Benham, and what a time! Salutes with a 0.5 of a second increase in Delta, with a 1:35.729. Is there anything this youngster can't do as Cookie lands himself up into P2?
I was about to say, George, that he's absolutely blown them all away, but I think the track might be drying out a little bit as Cookie now goes into the 1:35s as well. So is the track beginning to dry? And as I said at the start of this qualifying section, is it going to be a case of last man over the lines the winner, first man is the loser? With the field so tight, it could very easily be the case. Well, this is going to be quite an interesting end to qualifying as Dylan Warren shoots off the track there and through the gravel, through the SE section. This is very interesting, George. Is the track drying out? It could just be the case that the drivers are more confident, they're finding the grip now and they're just building themselves up. But I do think the sun's trying to break through, and I think it's only spitting now, the rain not falling as heavily, George.
This is what we love about these weather conditions, Andy. Puts a little bit of a spoke in the wheel. Obviously, fills it with question marks as Dario Mulo strikes into P3. A great time from him as well at 1:36.149. Not quite the 1:35s that we've seen from Jake Benham and QVR Cookie currently, who are currently owning the top two places right now. Still plenty of drivers, though, out on track, including this man, Felipe Souza, the Brazilian, looking to try and utilise that Williams to the best of its ability. I'm sure he can do just that. Further up as well, plenty. HX4K currently up into P15, also working his way around the circuit. He's gone currently 0.3 over his previous sector, so I think he's on a slowdown lap right now. In fact, has eaten a little bit of the gravel, left it as well out on track as well, perusing his way around the initial spots of the circuit. Dylan Warren as well, trying to head through the next chicane, working his way down now through the final corner, and very shortly if you look at a post earlier time, no, he's bailing into the pit lane, and he will prepare for maybe one more run before the session ends. The track dries up, Andy. This enforces the drivers to make a decision, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And let's have a look at that bottom five at the minute. Thomas Harvey, Valentin Bruffer. That would be a major shock if he does not get out of the first part of qualifying. Felipe Souza, Samuel is there too. Gary Fitz, but Felipe Souza is out there on a lap now, and he's negotiated the tricky Dunlop curve. Let's see what his first sector is like, and he's 0.3 up on his previous best. At the minute, that will still not be enough to lift him out of the bottom five. He needs to find 5 or 6 tenths to get to the time of HX4K on a 1:37.497. Down into the hairpin he goes, where Kobayashi once made several great moves back in 2010 and in 2012. As here comes Souza now, sweeping up through this long right-hander and then towards the spoon curve. Let's see how he gets on. Spot the braking zone at the 50 metres, turn in gingerly and carefully in these damp conditions, then just feather the throttle. Don't want to run too wide out onto the curb, and the rear just sliding there on Felipe Souza as he now takes the shortest route down that straight with 3.5 minutes to go. Is this going to be the lap to get him out of Q1? And he's 1.2 seconds up now on his previous best, and if that doesn't tell you the track is drying, I don't know what will. Here comes Sousa then, through the final chicane, and then one slight right-hander to shoot for the line, takes the shortest route, back in, sliding again on the Williams. It's a 36.7, and he goes 11th quickest, and that drops HX 4K into the bottom 5.
Yeah, it's enough to put him into P11, Andy, so not bad at all from Felipe Sousa. Another man who's looking to try and get himself out of the drop zone is Samuel Lebert, as well as Jari Fitz, who are both now out on hot laps. Jari Fitz is going to be the first of the pair of them to make his way across the line. Valentin Bruffair crucially out on an out lap as well. Can he get himself out as well? Certainly Drama filling up the higher echelons of the grid classification. In comes Jari Fitz into the Casio Triangle chicane now, heading out of turn 17 into turn 18, and as he rounds the final corner, what can Jari Fitz do? Is it going to be a time fitting of getting higher up this grid as he comes across? Still no time set. He's going to have to go again, and looking further back as well, I believe there was a time posted further down. Lebert has actually managed to trump Felipe Sousa and get into P11 himself, Andy. Superb stuff.
It's superb. Shanakinski on the bubble, not for much longer. He goes 10th on a 136.5, and it might just be a case of last man over the line is going to win the lottery here. Let's see how we get on. As now Thomas Harvey makes his way around the final couple of corners, slipping and sliding. He's up by 6 He might need to be up by more. He goes 12 quickest, and now Dormeyer drops into the bottom 5. He left it. HX4K, Valentin Bruffair still in there, and Jari Fitz as well, who is out there. Dormeyer starts a flying lap now to try and clamber out of the bottom 5, but things are not looking good for those drivers at the minute. Bruffair really needs a good lap in here, and I've got to say, Jari Fitz, he's just not in a good section at all, has he, George? And I don't think it's going to be happening for him unless he finds something special. Let's have a look at Bruffair through that first sector. This is crucial, and he's up by some 7/10 on his previous best. Surely this could be enough to push him up into the next part of qualifying, George.
Yeah, very potent is Valentin Bruffair, and that's why Veloce have certainly signed him as he now rounds the hairpin bend around turn 11, heading out now around turn 12, and this is so key now as he rounds the next right, trying to push, trying to scrape, trying to grasp any little bit of dry that's available on this circuit to get in any traction whatsoever in this car, but going up by 7/10 of a second is massive in that first sector, and that will bode him well at this moment in time. Now rushing down into sector 3 proper very shortly on the outskirts of sector 2 as he rushes around 130i. You can see that 1.171 seconds faster on his previous time into the Casio Triangle chicane. This is a massive lap from Bruffair coming out now of that chicane, now round in the final corner at turn 18. What can the Black Arrow post here today? Is it going to be brilliance from Bruffair? It's enough for P8. Saves his bacon. He's in the top 10. Great lap, Andy.
Great lap. Here comes Dormeyer. Can he save his skin right to the end here? 136.3. He goes 10th. Anything on a 36.5 or lower is in the danger zone, if you ask me. Felipe Sousa now improving as well by half a second in the middle sector. And Warren shoots up too. Here comes Sousa then into the final chicane. He's currently in the danger zone. He needs a special lap. Lenny Pipinter's down there as well now. Here comes Felipe Sousa running to the line. Is he going to do it? He should. Wow, right up into the top 6 he goes. Brilliant stuff, and there's still a few more to come, George.
Yeah, there's plenty more out on track. Left it is still going as well. It's now or never for these guys. We're in squeaky bum time of Q1, ladies and gentlemen. This is it. We're into extra time, stoppage time here in qualifying. Plenty of them out on the circuit, including Antoine Desalewski, who's making his way down the final section of this Suzuka circuit. He's got an Alfa Romeo dead ahead of him as well. That, of course, being, I believe, Thomas Harvey, who's not Thomas Harvey, sorry, Jari Fitz, who's coming up through the Casio Triangle chicane. They're both going to come across the line in tandem. Jari Fitz, last chance to dance for this man. P19 is all he can muster as he crosses the line. Thomas Harvey doesn't improve. Left it as well. Further back, rounding Spoon Curve, heading on the exit. He's got an Alfa behind him, of course, being Thomas Harvey. Andreas Dormeyer still out and about, but he's still safe at this moment in time, and he will still be safe, I believe, as we look further down. I think, as things stand, Lefted is the only one I think that can post a reasonable time, Andy.
Yeah, and Harvey as well. Thomas Harvey is going very quickly, and he is just about to give Shanakinshi his second successive Q1 knockout in successive weeks, and there you go, he goes 4th quickest. Now we wait and see, and that is that. Shanna Kenshi out, HX4K out, Lenny Pepinter lifted, and Yari Fitz all out of qualifying. A set of 36.5 could be shaky, and that was the cut-off point, and Shanna Kenshi is just out.
Well, I have to say, they spoke about it prior, Andy. They spoke about it. We heard about it. Jake Benham said it himself. He needed the wet weather, and it's come to answer for him there today. Jake Benham is your P1 sitter in Q1 of qualifying. Cookie in 2nd, Brufair 3rd. Thomas Harvey, that last gasp effort, P4. Shanaka Clay, P5. Yamulo, P6. Dylan Warren bumping himself up into the top 10 in P7. Felipe Souza, P8. Caraton, 9th. 10th for Louis Welch. 11th for Antoine Desaluski. Samuel Lebert in P12, Liam Parnell 13th, Dormeyer in 14th with Christian Sendel just on the bubble in P15 with Shanna Kinchi P16, Hawk, and then Lenny Pepinter, Lefted, and Yari Fitz. They're getting eliminated from qualifying. But incredible stuff indeed, and a great lap, a bold lap from Jake Benham, and he came exactly when it needed him most, didn't it?
Yeah, well, if you tell you what, he wasn't lying when he spoke to you earlier on, George, was he? He needed a bit of rain, and straight out there into the 35s and nailed the lap, and through he went. But I really enjoyed that first session, George. It was really exciting with the weather changing. I don't actually think the track dried at all, really. I think the drivers were just finding more time and more confidence out there, and it ended up just not being enough for a certain 5 drivers. And yeah, it was that 36.5. That was the bubble. The top time was a 35.7. So there you go. The gap between getting in and out was only, 7 or 8 tenths. So yeah, really, really competitive, George. And well, we've lost 5 cars, and now we head to Q2. I wonder what the weather brings for the second session. But at the minute, Jake Benham is rubbing his hands with glee. He's loving it, George. He'll be very happy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a raffle prize. You just don't know what number's going to be dealt to you, and certainly the weather is exactly that here at WOR at Suzuka. And of course, the Japanese circuit, weather conditions can be quite out of this world. It can really, it's a lottery, folks. As I said before, just like a raffle, if your number gets called, it could likely be wet weather, and it's all up to the drivers to see whether they can manage those interchangeable conditions. Certainly, it seems to me that Jake Benham has got that side of him sussed right now. The problem is, if we do get to a point where we have consistent dry situations, maybe the likes of Caraton, maybe the likes of Shanaka Clay, maybe they'll turn up and start showing the best of themselves as well. They certainly are still in this fight, so do not look away from your television sets, folks. This is going to be a sensational series of qualifying sessions, not to mention the race itself, which could throw up its own certain array of question marks, like we saw at Bahrain last week, Andy. Only I think this one is going to be for slightly different circumstances.
Yeah, and we're jumping back in, George. 15 cars remain, and there's still some drizzle out there on the racetrack then. So it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. Are we still going to see Jake Benham soaring up at the top, or are we going to see a little bit of a change in the order? But certainly, if it dries up, going by what he's told you, George, he's not expecting to be as quick. And will we see, like you said, the likes of Caraton rising to the top? We'll wait and see. But at the minute, no sign of the rain abating. Continues to drizzle down here at Suzuka as the cars leave the pits and head out onto the outlaps. First man out, it is Alvaro Caraton. And let's have a quick word, George, on Alvaro Caraton. So impressive in qualifying last weekend. But when it came to the race, it was just an absolute disaster, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was a disaster as well for many drivers on the circuit, but Caraton would be very disappointed. Of course, he's got a reputation. He is the apex predator. He can land every corner. He has got that ability. He is absolutely extraordinary. His precision, his pace, his speed, ferocity. He has it all in abundance. This man is one tricky customer, and I don't think he was quite given the opportunity to shine last week, but this time at Suzuka, I think he will have the answer. Him, of course, I think the very, very close combatant will be Shanaka Clay. Both of them know each other. They both fought in esports, of course, together. But not to mention, don't forget, like I said, a lot of young pretenders coming up looking to take the scalps of these top guys. And this is the best place to see it, only at WR, of course, where you see a great mixture of up-and-coming talent and the current stars of in the world of esports. Both of them, currently nothing separates them in terms of time ability or delta ability. I have to say, it's an answer on a postcard situation. I don't know who's going to come out on top, but Caraton, you'd expect, with all his experience, should be able to execute around this circuit.
Yeah, he sure will. He will be the first man to start a flying lap, George. Let's see how he gets on out there. as he makes his way gingerly through 130. Doesn't want to be sticking in the wall on a lap that doesn't matter, and he's now just building up, and he is, as you can see, just rounding those final chicanes and then up towards the start finish line then to start a flying lap around this Suzuka circuit. Let's go for a lap with him then. This really is one of the best tracks in Formula 1, right up there with Monaco, Silverstone, Spa and Monza, as he sweeps into that first corner. A long right-hander, which is really two corners in the one according to the track map, and then he now sweeps up the hill and into the SE section. What a wonderful sequence of corners in the dry. It's absolutely incredible, sweeping high speed. Even in the wet it's pretty high speed too, and then into Dunlop. This is so hard. Blind on entry, uphill, left-hander, get on the curb, you'll slide and lose the rear. Go too wide, you'll end up on the gravel and go for a spin. Such a tricky corner to get right, and then the two majestic Degner corners. You know, you will be rewarded for carrying speed into that first one. Don't carry too much though, because you might bounce off the track and into the wall at the second part, and then down the hill into the hairpin for this tricky turn 11. And you know, you can make overtakes here if you're brave, if you're bold. If not, you can then slingshot down this long straight through turn 12 up towards Spoon Curve, another place you can make a move in the race. But let's be honest, George, most of the moves we expect to see will be down into the Casio Triangle and down into the first corner, won't they?
Absolutely. They'll have DRS on the main straights, which of course will serve them well, I'd imagine. Lots of them will be utilising it in order to get certainly a lot of moves done. I can certainly imagine that heading into turn 1. A lot of them like to make that attractive swooping outside manoeuvre heading around turn 1 into turn 2. That sweeping series of bends, of course, that you alluded to at the start of Caraton's lap, of course, never a more beautiful, stunning picture in Formula 1 than those bends. I love them to bits. Of course, Suzuka was my first experience of Formula 1 growing up, as Alvaro Caraton nails the first time on the board with a 1:36.247, not too distant from some of the best times we saw in Q1. So already off the bat, Shanaka Clay trumping him straight away. 2/10 of a second the difference between the pair.
Yeah, good lap there from Shanaka Clay to open his account. Let's see what the likes of Brufair and Benham have got up their sleeves, as Cookie is really on a roll, isn't he? 36.197 from him. But I'm really interested to see what Benham does, George, because we've seen how strong he was in Q1 and all the eyebrows have been raised. He's done an 18.2 up to the second sector, and he's apparently purple up to that point. So are we going to see another 35 from Benham straight off the bat here in qualifying 2? Here he goes then, round the final corner and towards the line. It's currently a 1-2 for Aston as Desaluski goes second. Benham for the line. It's a 36 flat, just a fraction slower than Shanaka Clay. But we're getting a pattern developing here in qualifying of who is looking good in the wet, and the likes of Benham and Shanaka Clay and even Cookie look very strong. And look at Christian Sendel again, up in third place with a 36.1.
Yeah, absolutely superb from Christian Sendel, but Benham once again showing his consistency in wet weather conditions. How vital will that be going into the race? That is obviously subject to whether we do see wet weather in the race, of course. It could very well change to dry. Like we said before, folks, we simply do not know as we're now watching this man. Certainly Valentin Brufair coming around the next left, hopefully like his Veloce compatriot Jake Benham. Can he light things up here in the top order, potentially trumping his teammate? We'll have to wait and see as he makes his way around the next right hand up, sweeping up towards turn 13. Spoon Curve beckons, and you almost want to feather the throttle again on the outset of this bend. Just grip on, hold on tight as he rounds to the next left. Certainly as he makes his way out of turn 14 now after Spoon, down into the next straight. He has got the next bend at turn 15. Of course, one of the most fastest sections in Formula 1, this one, as Cookie lands a P1 of a 1:35.937, over a tenth of a second quicker, or just under a tenth of a second quicker than Shanaka Clay. But can Brufair do the unthinkable? Can he land the top spot here ahead of Cookie as he now rounds the final corner, this time at turn 18? The Black Arrow P9 is all he can get, not quite good enough. He will have to go again. He is a driver at risk, Andy.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, George, I feel like Brufair is really not enjoying these conditions. Don't get me wrong, it's like 4/10 off the top time, but 4/10 in this tier with this level of competitiveness is pretty far off. And Valentin Brufair, it just doesn't look at one with the car. He's had a couple of scruffy laps, had to wait quite late to get one in Q1. You know, you look at the likes of Cookie and the likes of Benham, Shanaka Clay, one lap wonder, straight out the box and in with a quick time. So Brufair, for me, in this qualifying section, is really going to have to work hard at it to get the ideal result in qualifying, to give him a good chance if it's a dry race. It's going to be a real challenge for him to get into Q3. Let's see if he can do it, George.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to wait and see whether he can land it, of course, folks. I just want to say as well, massive thank you to everybody watching here tonight. Of course, we've got over 140 of you watching here as now Thomas Harvey comes across the line. He's going to start his current flying lap, but we are one subscriber away from the mighty 1,000 subscriber mark, folks. So make sure you slap a subscribe and also leave a like on the video as well. It would really mean a lot to us. Very close to nailing such an incredible milestone for the very first time here at WOR, and it's absolutely massive, and it's a privilege to have you all with us, and a pleasure indeed, Andy. And it's so great for us to witness some of the best up-and-coming talent in the world of esports.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely fantastic, and it's a bit like what we touched on earlier, isn't it? We said how Alvaro Caraton, he's been there, done it. He's been in the esports, and you know, he's still young himself, but you know, there's a lot of others now chasing that dream and trying to get in there and show that they are worthy of a place on the F1 esports grid. And there is so much young talent out there, as you say, and we're seeing it in front of us here today again, and they're just so evenly matched. It's so competitive, and it's what we all want to see. That's why we all tune in, and yeah, I'm really enjoying this session so far. But I'm looking at it, George, what do you think the cut-off time could be here? I think it could be somewhere around 36.2 from Caraton, 36.3 maybe. We'll have to wait and see. 6 minutes to go in this qualifying session. But there's so many cars in that little gaggle on a 36.2/36.3 at the minute. So I wouldn't be feeling too comfortable on that marker as things stand.
Well, I just want to say quickly, Andy, before we jump into markers and certainly timing deltas, happy 1,000 World Online Racing. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for your support. And a massive thank you to Joseph, who I believe was number 1,000 on the subscriber list. Thank you all so much for all your support, your dedicated support. It certainly has not gone unnoticed. The development of this league is first season on the PC platform, and we're lighting things up on the very first season with 1,000 YouTube subscribers. How brilliant are all of you? Sensational, Andy. It's a privilege to call this kind of racing with 1,000k confirmed in the bag.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. Great that it happened while we were live, George. That's awesome stuff. Just all the hard work that's going on behind the scenes at WOR. So if you're all listening, everyone at WOR, well done. Congratulations. This is for you. We are at 1,000, and thanks to everyone, of course, for subscribing to the league. As we really intend to go places with this league. It's going to become one of the top leagues out there, and it already is, let's be honest. And you know, I'm glad that everyone is enjoying what they're seeing, and it's great that we're able to achieve such things. Up to 1,000 subs, awesome stuff. As Dario Yumilo goes 6th quickest with a 1:36.2. I really do think 36.2, 36.3 is going to be around the marker, George. And I think if you're on a 36.3 or 2, I wouldn't be sitting too comfortably in the garage when the time ticks to 0.
No, I absolutely agree with you. Liam Parnell will be hoping that he can certainly lift the lights on that as he now rounds the Casio Triangle chicane down through the final corner. The Red Bull looking to light things up, and he looks like he's on a flyer, as you say, Andy. P2 is what he gets, and only within, I would say, just over half a tenth the difference between him and Cookie. So amazing what these drivers are doing at the top end. Early 135 or late 135s, not bad at all. Amazing stuff indeed, and the Red Bull will be celebrating, at least for the time being. But I'm sure that will get him in to Q3 without a shadow of a doubt. But there's plenty in the bottom echelon. Samuel Lebert looking to try and turn up the heat, yet to nail a lap time. Pressure on Thomas Harvey as well on an outlap. These two yet to set lap times here, Andy. Pressure is really heavy on those guys.
Yeah, and Liber sliding the rear of the car through turn 2. Oh, look at this from Sousa. Welcome to the party, my friend. What a lap from Felipe Sousa. A 35.7, the quickest lap we've seen so far in this qualifying session over both sessions. Wow. Yeah, that'll raise a few eyebrows.
It certainly did. Incredible there, Andy. A 1:35.712. Incredible stuff from the Williams driver, and he will certainly be lapping that up now, certainly with just over 3 minutes 50 to go. Incredible stuff indeed. Thomas Harvey on an outlap. Samuel Lebert, like you said earlier, not happy in the car, Andy. I don't think he's slipping and sliding all over the place. There's another Williams strikes the front. The Apex Predator, no less. Alvaro Caraton nails a 35.676. Stupendous stuff, and goes just over half a tenth clear of that man Felipe Sousa. Williams are looking in great shape, Andy.
Yeah, they're looking in very good shape, as is Shinaka Clay. He's on yet another lap, and he's just about to join the 35 club, I think, as he's 1.5, almost 2/10 up on his previous best. Is the track now beginning to dry out? I think it might be, or maybe they're just getting quicker and quicker. It's a 35.9 then from Shinaka Clay, and he moves now up into third place, and very quickly, my prediction of a 36.2 or 3 being the cutoff might have to get whittled away down to around the 36.1 or 36.0, George, because these drivers really are beginning to raise the bar now and find the limit of the racetrack, find the limits of the grip, and find those extra few tenths.
Yeah, definitely, and this man could do just that. Jake Benham, who is currently flying, hightailing around Spoon Curve. The Black Arrow looking to add a little bit of potency again to land another blow on this classification here in qualifying. Can he do what he did in Q1? You can see his teammate in behind as well, a Valentine Brufair. Incoming, Jake Benham, the All-Star, into the Casio Triangle chicane now, and that black livery that's tasted gold on frequent occasions. P1 certainly will be on the cards as he rounds the final corner. Can he land that auspicious blow? P2 is what he gets by a fly's eyelash off Alvaro Caraton. Huge effort from the All-Star Jake Benham, but he will be back, I'm sure. He will not stop until he relentlessly gets that P1, but a great showing in qualifying from that man.
Yeah, fly's eyelash. I love it, George. I absolutely love it. Great line, great line. I'm going to have to note that one down. It's excellent stuff. With 2 minutes to go here in qualifying. And look at this from Cookie once again. Unbelievable. 135.5 now from QVR Keep Cookie. He really is on fine form, and he goes to the top of the order. Let's see down the bottom half of the order who is able to improve and able to get themselves out of Q1. Samuel Libre is out there now and coming into the final couple of corners yet to get a competitive time on the board. He's currently bottom of the standings. What can he do as he makes his way around the final corner? He's made hard work of this. Can he get into the next round of qualifying? He goes sixth with a 35.9, and that is a fantastic effort to get himself in. And suddenly Des Aluski on a 36 flat is on the bubble.
Yeah, he certainly is. Look at Christian Sendel as well, about to cross the line. Can he also get through? Not this time. He's on a slow lap very shortly. He's going to have to burst it on. Well, certainly bursting on it now. He needs to make it happen as young Christian Sendel, a youngster with a lot of promise who really lit things up in Q1. Plenty, though, of cars out on track. Only one car in the pit lane, and that's Dario Mulo, who instantly retires from the session, Andy. He must be feeling comfortable. That's a very brave, or is that a silly move?
It's a silly move because he won't be feeling comfortable in a minute because he's about to go on to the bubble because of that lap time from Valentine Brufair. Well, I said he wasn't quite finding the speed. He's found it at the right time, right at the end of the session before the checkered flag falls. And now Yumulo is the target they're all hunting for on that 36th flat. It will not be a moving target either. He's stuck there with that lap time, hoping and praying that nobody out there improves. And one man that is improving is Andres Dormeyer, but not by much. He needs to find an almighty final sector if he wants to put himself up into the final part of qualifying. He's now the slowest of all, and now Yumulo is down and into 11th place. Here comes Dormeyer. He's definitely going to be out, surely. 15th, he does have time to go again. Can he go again? Can he find the time? As Harvey crosses the line, he's 13th. He is definitely out as the checkered flag falls. What about Christian Sendel?
Well, I can tell you about Christian Sendel. He has lost nearly two. Oh, he's lost the car as well. He lost over 2 tenths in Sector 2. He's just lost the car in Sector 3. Not good at all. And that will surely cement his position as out in qualifying in Q3. Williams comes through as well. I believe that's Caraton coming through. He's on a slow one. That's Felipe Souza who is going slow around the Casio Triangle. He'll be boxing as well. But that looks like it's all in hand right now. Antoine Desalewski, though, he's on a flyer as well. Over 2 tenths quicker, heading into Sector 3. Here he comes now, down towards the Casio Triangle chicane. The Aston Martin livery looking to join Shinaka Clay up into the higher echelons of qualifying as he now rounds into the Casio Triangle now. Hightailing out of that series of bends, looking for the grip on the exit, hugs the inside line around turn 18. Antoine Desalewski, P7, he grasps it, cements Louis Welch into the bottom 5. Louis Welch out to the time. Is he improving, Andy?
No, he's not. He's half a second down. Forget it. It's game over for him. Where all eyes will now turn to the Alfa Romeo of Thomas Harvey. Is he on a quick lap or is he on a slow one? Let's see what he can do up to the middle sector. Very, very important that Thomas Harvey. I'm not getting his lap time.
He's invalidated
on my screen. He's invalidated. So that is it then for Thomas Harvey. He is out, and Liam Parnell is through by the skin of his teeth on a 1:35.9. Ended up the entire top 10 did a 1 minute 35.9 then. So there you go, as Thomas Harvey finishes up, he's 13th quickest. So there you go, Louis Welsh out 36.0, Daniel Umilo out 36.0, Thomas Harvey out in a 36.1, Sendel and Andreas Dormer. How close was that? 15 cars covered by 7/10, and that is the small margin of half a tenth that separates P11 for Louis Welsh and a shot at pole for Liam Parnell in 10th.
I'm saying it again, Andy. Qualifying, the deficits, the delta's thinner than a fly's eyelash. There's nothing between these guys. Incredible stuff. And certainly even in the wets, where things are oh so treacherous, they throw everything on the line. And we saw that, of course, with that instant spin that we saw from Christian Sendel earlier on. He got it all wrong in Sector 2, lost nearly 0.2 of a second, and then went for a spin out into Sector 3. But there's your leader, Valentin Bruffair, P1 in Q2, with Cookie in behind. How consistent is Cookie? He could be a big favourite heading into the race. Shanaka Clay up there in P3 with Caraton in P4, Benham into P5, Souza in P6, Antoine Desalewski 7th, Dylan Moore in 8th, Lebert in 9th, Liam Parnell 10th, and we're losing Louis Welch, Yamulo, Harvey, Sendel, as well as Dormeyer. They're all eliminated, but wowee, what another auspicious qualifying session. Tight times across the grid order, great effort from all of them, but the 35 certainly seemed to be the place you need to be, certainly in the wet.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting if the weather continues for Q3, George. What will be the target for pole position? These drivers getting quicker and quicker and quicker. What will it need to be? It must be something like a 35.3, something like that to try and get pole position. I'm not too sure, but good laps from the likes of Felipe Souza to get in. He's really enjoying the wet conditions. Yeah, really, really good session. Look who else is through. Liebert as well. That's a great effort from him too to get himself into Q3 as well. So, and Cookie, wow, that's just incredible from the Haas driver. He could go out there and give us quite a story by sticking this on pole, George, because he's got every chance. He looks very, very strong. Yeah,
I mean, if you look at the constructors that we've got in this final session of qualifying, very, very few, in fact, are on their own. You've got only one McLaren driver, you've got 2 Haas drivers, 2 Williamses, 2 Mercedes, 2 Aston Martins. There's only one odd one out. 2 odd ones out, in fact, and that is a Red Bull from Liam Parnell and Dylan Warren in the McLaren. It's Formula 1 Escandy. Incredible stuff. Even though Haas, 2 cars in Q3, that's a bit different.
Yeah, that's very, very strange. Is this 2021? You should have got 2018. Yeah, there you go then. They're through. I mean, both Williams is too. I mean, that's a bit mental as well, isn't it? But of course, the 2 Mercedes are there. How boring, eh? How boring is
some things never change, Andy.
Some things never change. But who can be the star here in Q3? This is it. This is what they've all been building up for throughout the sessions. No more messing around. This is it. Set the positions for the top 10 in the field. And this is where they will give it everything. This is where they'll start to take risks, get on the white lines, the painted white lines in the wet, push that extra little bit more to find those extra few hundreds and thousands. Let's see who can nail the lap and get pole position in round 2 of the Japanese Grand Prix.
Absolutely, and this man could do that. Alvaro Caraton, esports professional, signed to Williams, of course, and no doubt looking to make a point on this grid. And the rain still continues to hit us hard here in Q3. This is, of course, where everything matters, folks. We've had qualifying in Q2. And now we're into Q3, where the times will be listed on the board. We want to hear from you, folks. Light up the live chat. Who do you think is getting pole position here for the Japanese Grand Prix? Please ensure, if you haven't done so already as well, to leave a subscribe and a like to the WOR stream service and, of course, the league itself. It's a pleasure to have you all on board. And obviously, we're looking forward to seeing what these drivers can do heading into the last stages. Andy, have you got a tip for us by any chance?
Well, I don't know. I'm having to think, George, about this. I'm not sure. I was just about to give you my opinion on pole, but because I sat in the fence so much last week, I don't think I can sit on it any longer. So I'm going to have to go for it and give you my prediction for pole. It could be any one of 4, maybe 5. Cookie we're going to have to watch out for. He looks very, very strong. I think Bruffair's up to speed now, but I'm still not convinced he can do it in 1 lap. And for that reason, I'm not going to go for him. I am going to go Benham. I'm going to go Benham for pole, George. I've just got a sneaky feeling he's going to hook this up and get the lap together and stick it on pole. What about yourself? I'm interested to hear who you think, George.
Well, I'm personally siding with that man, Shinaka Clay. I think he's got something in his locker. Experienced man, certainly knows the track of Japan and has executed here on a number of occasions. Certainly one of the experts around this circuit. Alvaro Carreton not having a very enjoyable fast lap right now. Certainly struggling to cope on the track. Has lost the rear end slightly. He did it around Dunlop more severely, and that's what cost him all his time. He's now on a slow lap and now letting, I believe that is Shinaka Clay. In fact, no, sorry, it's Antoine Desalewski coming into Spoon Curve himself. So he's there round in the next double left. And very shortly will come out of Spoon, heading down into the next left at turn 15. This is, of course, one of the fastest points on the circuit, where you go downhill and deep dive into the Japanese circuit of Suzuka proper. And, of course, like I said before, my first experience of Formula One was at this very track, where I witnessed live on television as Murray Walker called the end of the championship, with Damon Hill lifting the World Drivers' Championship as Cookie lands at the initial time at 1:35.852. He's not pulling any punches, Andy. Landing at 35 from the get-go, and so does Antoine Desalewski.
And no one out there at the minute, George, giving me a sector time that's got me in shock. That's all similar times to what we've seen in the last part of qualifying. Nobody at the minute looking like the top. The 35.5s that we saw at the minute. It was Jake Benham who has gone quickest of them all by 200s to Shinaka Clay, then Cookie, then Desalewski, then Bruffer pops in with a 35.9, then Dylan Warren. Who else is out there? We've got Libre, slow lap from both Williamses at the minute. Let's see what Libre can do then as he makes his way down towards 130R. You need to be in the 17s at this point to really be on an absolute cracker to maybe threaten a 35.5, but at the minute it's an 18.2 up to that point for Samuel Libre. So let's see what he can do around the final couple of corners. But Jake Benham with the first punch looks like he's on top at the minute, George.
Yeah, looking confident. Your tip is looking good. Here comes Lebert coming up across the line now. What can he land? P6 goes ahead of Liam Parnell and Dylan Warren. Still no answer from the two Williams cars just yet. Of course, Felipe Souza currently rounding the Degners now. His teammate Alvaro Carreton is a little bit further ahead. He's rising up towards Spoon Curve, and now this is the moment where a lot of the drivers will take a break in their pit bays now and get ready for the start of the second runs. Some of them may choose to stay out and land consecutive blows on the timing tower. We'll have to wait and see. Carreton, though, yet to nail a lap time himself just yet. In the Williams, about to run the 130R, coming around the next left. It certainly could be. It's looking pacey, coming around on those intermediates into the Casio Triangle chicane. Gets onto it now, straight into the apexes, hitting every single one. The Apex Predator looking very measured, calculated, in fact, as he rounds the final corner. P1's what he garners, a 1:35.436. That's a massive 3.5 tenths quicker than Jake Benham, and he certainly has answered many questions in my book. Sensational lap, Andy.
Yeah, they're going to have to go some to beat that. That is absolutely magnificent. Bruffer challenges it with a 1:35.6, but that is an awesome lap from the Spaniard. Alvaro Carreton bidding to make it 2 poles in a row, and I tell you what, you're going to struggle to topple that one, but tell you what, there's plenty of talent out there, and there's plenty of drivers capable of doing so. It's a decent marker from Valentin Bruffer, a 35.6, but still some 2/10s off that from Carreton. Up to the second sector, a 17.8. As soon as I saw him split that timing beam, I knew he was going to be on an absolute corker, and that's exactly what it is, a 35.4, and he's quickest of all after the opening stanza in Q3 then. Carreton looking good.
Yeah, he certainly is. I was just about to say his teammate Felipe Souza also improving in the first sector. Actually managed to gain a 1.5 tenths, but unfortunately he had a little error on the second Degner, running himself off the track, and therefore I think he might have invalidated his time. But he's still going, so maybe he's okay. Just rounding now the 130R, soon to be heading into Spoon Curve. Naturally though, with 5 minutes left, he might choose to box and get himself ready for the final couple of laps at most that you're going to land out on this grid. I can already see the Cookie's out, so is Antoine Desalewski, and this is it, folks. I want to hear from you yet again. Light at the chat board. I can already see a tip from Jesus Gabin. He's going for a Cookie easy podium. It's not looking so easy at the moment for Cookie, who's out on a outlap yet again. He's got another 4 tenths to find before he can even topple or even consider toppling Alvaro Carreton right now, but do not write him off. He's been good in the initial sections, and as I once predicted, Felipe Souza coming into pit. We're coming into the last stages now. Tip from Tom Clark. He's going Shinaka Clay.
He's going Shinaka Clay. Okay then, so it could be any one of around 5 drivers, I would say. I would say any one of the top 5 at the minute. They're the ones that have really shown some fine pace and really look like they could threaten for pole position. I know Antoine Desilewski is only a few hundredths off Cookie, but he's not been right up at the top throughout this entire qualifying session. I tell you what, if Cookie ends up 5th, I think he'll be quite disappointed. He's been phenomenal in this session up till now. I think he's got a real chance of a front row, or certainly a second row. He will not be happy if he finds himself in 5th position. Everyone out there on an outlap at the minute, except Liam Parnell. He's still in the pits. Felipe Souza and the front two drivers in the order. They're still in the pits, waiting for their final run. So who's going to be first to start a flying lap? It's going to be QVR Cookie, George.
Yep, certainly is. And Cookie will be making his way down the stretch now into the the first corner, heading into turn 1, and now beckoning his way up the very attractive swinging snake section. And this, of course, is where you need to be so precise, you need to be very gentle on the curb, certainly in these conditions. Just a little comment in the live chat, Andy, and I think this further solidifies Alvaro Caraton's time. Christian Sendel saying, Jesus, a 0.4 is absolutely crazy. He cannot fathom a time of a 35.4 around a track such as this. And doesn't that just iron out Alvaro Caraton's superior quality at the moment?
Yeah, it's true class. It's an incredible lap, but don't get me wrong, George, we've seen 35.5s, so if we've seen that in Q2, there's every possibility a special lap could come from the likes of Bruffer, Benham, Clay or Cookie, but this is looking like a scruffy lap from Cookie so far. I've seen him get a little bit out of shape through the second Degner, so he's not quite hooking all the sectors up at the minute. We'll see what it's like through the second sector, but that little slide cannot have helped his cause as he tries to beat that incredible time from Alvaro Caraton.
Certainly does, rounding out a spoon curve now, heading down the stretch. He needs to try and put it all together. And certainly the Haas already providing us with so many great moments in qualifying. Look at that, a mighty, just under half a second improvements in Sector 2. Coming into Sector 3 now, down into the Casio Triangle chicane. We've seen so many of them certainly utilise this section to absolute, brilliance as he now outs his way round turn 18. In comes the Haas. Can he topple a P1? He gets him! He gets him! A 135, 135. Is it drying up, Andy? Is it drying up this late in qualifying?
I don't know if it's drying up or if that is just something absolutely outrageous we've just seen from QVR Cookie. What a lap that is. We thought Caraton, his lap was brilliant. Cookie's just dwarfed it with an absolutely stunning 135.1. He's made it look average. Unbelievable. What can Shinaka Clay do now as he makes his way up to the middle sector? It's a 17.7. Maybe this track is drying a little bit. 4/10 up on his previous best, so that should be easy. Front row as Dylan Warren goes up into 4th place. It'll need to be special from Clay through the final couple of corners to topple the time of Cookie. Here he goes, slipping and sliding his way round the final corner. Clay for the line. Is it pole? No, it's a front row start at the minute. He goes on to a 35.335.
Yeah, but there's plenty others now looking to set times, not to mention Jake Benham, who's just coming around the 130R now. Very shortly, he will move his way around. In fact, I think he's on a slow lap. He may look to go once more. As you can see, he's on a 141, only at Spoon Curve, so he's got a long way to go. Valentin Bruffer making his way around the Degners as well. Plenty of cars out and about on laps right now, folks. Felipe Sousa, a little wiggle there in the rear as he rounded Dunlop Curve, heading into the Degners. Plenty, though, as I said, all of them cascading through. Lebert's out and about. Antoine Desilewski is out on track 2, coming around the next left, and very shortly out of Spoon Curve now. Lebert's actually retired from the session as he crashed out, Andy.
Not too sure if he has, but he's not going to be going any more. He's now 8th at best on a 36.0 as we wait to see who is on a quick lap. Alvaro Caraton making his way right now down towards 130R. 17.5 for the second sector. He's around a 10th of a second up on the time we've seen from Cookie. So is this a lap coming now from Alvaro Caraton, who could maybe try and make it 2 poles from 2 races this season as he now heads round the final corner. Can the Spaniard put it on top? Caraton, no! He's a fraction down on the time from Cookie, and Cookie stays at the top of the standings for now.
Yeah, and what about Jake Benham, who's now rising his way through? He's in Sector 1. Remember, his last lap was not one that he wanted to land. Certainly now as he makes his way, he's nearly a mighty 2/10 up on his Sector 1 time. Coming out now, out of the Degners, heading up towards the hairpin bend at turn 11. Very surely he will round it. He's going to hug the inside line, just oh so gently feathering that throttle, powering out now, soon to be around turn 12, round the 200R. What can he do as he now moves away, hustles and shuffles his way up towards Spoon Curve, wants to get the right access route here, hugs the inside line, brushes the curb on the entry, takes a lot on the exit, rounding now out of turn 14, round turn 14 now, indeed, into sector 2 proper, soon to be in sector 3 as he comes down towards the 130R. Look at the top time, a 135 to beat. Can Benham be the man to land it as he comes down towards the Casio Triangle chicane? He is absolutely flying. The Black Arrow looking to follow on from a win last week at Bahrain. Can he land it here at Suzuka around the final bend of turn 18? Crosses the line. P3 is all he can muster. Not enough to top of the top billing, Andy.
Here comes Cookie again. He's already quickest. Is he going to go quicker by even more? No, he loses the rear end. He's about to go and do a 35 flat, I think, and he's lost the rear end. Caraton is not going quicker. Nobody's going quicker. It doesn't matter. QVR Cookie, despite that little slide on his final lap, has got pole anyway. What a lap from the Haas driver. A 135.135 was enough to topple them all, and it's Cookie on pole. There'll be no Cookie crumbling today. He's on top.
Well, I have to say, Andy, what a way to do it. Shredding it up here in this session of Q3. Very nearly grazing the 134s in a wet environment. Incredible stuff. Utilising the intermediate tyres. Haas of all cars topping the billing. Certainly a stark contrast to where they are in Formula 1 at the moment. But it's a time he can be proud of. QVR Cookie qualifies ahead of Alvaro Caraton, Jake Benham, Shanaka Clay, Antoine Desalewski, Valentin Brufair, Liam Parnell, Felipe Souza, Dylan Warren, and last but not least, Samuel Lebert in P10. Of course, there's many others who got eliminated in the early echelons of qualifying, but this is something that QVR Cookie can be really, really proud of. Doing what he does in wet weather, sensational. And there's your final standings, folks. As we just said, QVR Cookie is on pole position, front row of the grid with Alvaro Caraton, Jake Benham in row 2 with Shanaka Clay in P4 alongside him, Antoine Desalewski in P5 with Valentin Brufair in P6 with Liam Parnell P7, Felipe Souza P8, Dylan Warren P9, and Samuel Lebert, as we said before, P10 on the grid. But wowee! And people were saying in the live chat, folks, they were supporting Cookie. I have to say, he looked like the ultimate underdog, a lot was saying. They said he did not have this same pace last year. But what a statement against some of this class on this grid, against the likes of Caraton and Shanaka Clay, who are current esports professionals. That is a huge statement.
Yeah, it's fantastic, George. It's a great story for the league, great story for just league racing in general. Brilliant stuff from Cookie. The Slovenian has done it. He's on pole position. And yeah, let's see if the pace was genuine. Was he on a wet setup compared to others? We've got a dry race now here. So let's wait and see what it was. But we'll have to see. But take nothing away from him. Great lap. Got the job done. He was going even faster on his latest run after that. But it was that good that he didn't even need to do that latest lap. And he got that pole position, George. Brilliant.
Well, you got to give him a load of plaudits for his efforts around that track, you know, just hitting everything. You had to hit everything and get it spot on to get a lap like that under your belt. I mean, we were watching Caraton, who looked to have it sussed. We all thought that 35.4 was impressive, but in came Cookie, last-ditch effort into the 135.1s of all things. Just totally besmirched anything that Caraton did prior, and I have to say there's every reason to get excited by this guy, I have to say, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in this race situation. And we have got dry conditions. The sun is shining, folks, so we have no more rain leading into this race. So what's that gonna mean heading into this? Will that give Caraton the edge heading down into turn 1? Because the question is now, obviously there's no the tyre strategy or the tyre advantage from qualifying doesn't apply now, obviously, Andy, because we were talking about wet weather tyres obviously in quali, but now they're going to be setting on the slick tyres, and all of them will get their choice. So that gives the top 10 an instant advantage, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, that's going to be really interesting, George, because I'm reading in the chat that Luke is saying that we're expecting rain at the end of this race. So that is going to make tyre choice very, very, very interesting. What tyres will drivers go for? Will they go for a tyre that they can run into the wet conditions and not have to stop prior to that? Let's have a look. Few drivers going for the hard compound. Nobody in the entire field on a set of the soft compound tyres. Incredible there. So mediums and a few gambling on hards to run right until any wet weather potentially arrives, George. Wow.
Well, it could be a huge mix-up, like we said before, folks, and Andy quite rightly spot on. Obviously, you know, it's anybody's race still. I mean, no matter. I mean, you've got 27 laps to go through yet. We saw it happen at Bahrain. You think the strategy is ironclad. It never is, folks. Anything can happen to tip the scale. Very likely we see some safety cars. We have been hearing that a lot of the drivers aren't taking to the middle sector as well as you would have liked. But just looking at the cars on the track right now, folks, I want to hear from you as well. Who do you think is going to take P1 at the end of this race? Can Cookie take P1 and follow up from his excellent performance in Q3 with a race win here? Or will Caraton be too much? Benham is in P3 as well. Light up the live chat, folks. Andy, just want to get some insight from you as well. Going into the first lap of the race, how key is it to get that lead going into turn 1?
I think it's very important, George. I mean, it might be a classic track. We might give it a lot of credit, a lot of praise. But in these modern cars and on this game, I don't think it's one of the easiest to overtake. It's not like, you know, Bahrain last week where you can overtake literally anywhere and go side by side for half a lap. You know, it can be quite difficult to get that job done into the first corner in normal race conditions. So, you know, and shallow braking zones as well. That first corner is quite a long sweeper. So unless you're fully alongside with the DRS and able to get a preferred line in race conditions, it can be difficult to overtake. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I would say that around this track it is quite important to get off the line and lead into turn 1. You know, other tracks it's not as big a deal. It's not. But I think the advantage for Cookie here is that his two rivals, direct rivals, Caraton and Benham, are on a harder compound tyre. So he should, on paper, get the best start and have a chance to lead into the first corner. And the question will be whether Shinaka Clay can get the jump on the hard tyres around him.
Certainly will be. Just want to say, folks, a mighty 150 of you watching live at home right now. Sensational. Thank you all so much. We broke 1,000 subscribers leading up to this sensational WOR Japanese Grand Prix. So a massive thank you to all the viewers for all your dedicated and really amazing support. We thank each and every one of you. Big thank you to all the WOR staff for all your efforts. This is a testament to all your hard work, ladies and gentlemen, as we're now about to get ready for the start of this Japanese Grand Prix. All the cars lining up onto the grid. Keep it with us, folks. We're about to get underway. First light, second light, third light, fourth light, the fifth light. And it's pedal to the metal. Go, 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 go. And Cookie gets away exceptionally well. What traction across the line. Caraton with a very slow start enables Jake Benham to snipe him at the get-go as they round turn 1 now. The Mercedes and the Williams. Oh, argy-bargy heading through the first sector. But Caraton holds on to P2. Jake Benham, the all-star. And no answer. Antoine Desalewski in 4th place in behind Shinaka Clay. Valentin Brufair into P6. Andreas Dormeyer. A rocket of a start-up into P12, and there's movements to the back. We've lost, I think it was an Alfa Romeo at the back. Thomas Harvey off the track here, Andy.
Yeah, didn't quite see it, but Thomas Harvey is off the road and now trying to rejoin. I think we saw right away, George, just how difficult it can be to overtake round here because Benham and Caraton were going at it. Oh, go on, what are you saying?
Sorry, Shinaka Clay with an instant dive down the inside of Antoine Desalewski. Heading out now, that section of turn 11, rounding turn 12. The Aston Martin pairing, showing that they are still racing despite being teammates. And Shinaka Clay, absolutely sensational. The Aston Martin straight away getting him on lap 1 and moving his way up into P4. Now chasing Mercedes driver, the all-star, Jake Benham.
Yeah, but he's got himself a time penalty running wide there at Spoon, so a disaster in that sense for Shinaka Clay, only on the first lap of the Grand Prix, and he's got that already, unbelievable. But Cookie leads the race from Caraton in second. But what I was saying, George, before we saw the Astons battling, is that Caraton and Benham are fighting so hard with each other through turns 1, 2 and 3, and that just gives you an idea of how important the track position is going to be in the early laps of this Grand Prix, as we now lose HX4K from this Grand Prix.
Yeah, we've lost him, and his difficult record, certainly here in WR, certainly continues. And a safety car, VSC in fact, sorry folks, already set across in a full safety car now, Andy. A full safety car instantly up to HX4K. That's Hawk, or John, as people know him as, now out of the race, Andy.
Yeah, I'm not sure why or how he's retired on the racetrack. I probably shouldn't be doing that, but it's led to a safety car. Anyway, as Jari Fitz has come into the pits, he needed a brand new front wing on his car, and he has now gone onto a set of the medium compound tyre. So, you know, a saving grace for him. And it will be a saving grace as well for Thomas Harvey, won't it, George? Because he was round and facing the wrong way, and he'll be able to join the back of the train. So both Alfa Romeos in the wars at the start of this Grand Prix.
Yeah, certainly the answer is prayers. I have to say, Thomas Harvey, after that instant spin heading around, leading up towards Dunlop, you can just see him in the background heading out of lap 1. He just lost it all heading around the snake section. Looked to be a little bit of contact maybe with 1 or 2 drivers. Hopefully there's no damage sustained to the Alfa Romeo, but nevertheless, he is out on track, and I'm sure the safety car will assist and aid him in getting back to the rear of the pack. But just remember, folks, that Alvaro Carreton on the harder tyres, Andy. That's a very interesting strategy. Naturally, he can go longer into this race. Remember, Cookie on the medium tyres, he needs to gap the Apex Predator in behind, of course. He needs to get some time in between him. This safety car is not going to be to Cookie's liking.
No, it's not going to be to his liking at all, George. You're absolutely right. It's going to be interesting what the safety car does in terms of the weather. I mean, is it going to drag the rain into, coming sooner? And it would favour the medium runners, wouldn't it? So, yeah, it doesn't really help those on the hard tyres. It does help Cookie in that sense. It hurts the likes of Carreton and Venom and Desaluski because the medium runners can save their tyres and make them last longer. And not only that, with the rain expected later on, it brings the rain sooner because we're going slower under safety car. So I actually think, well, it won't help Cookie now. It might actually help him later on, George.
Yeah, well, do you think that maybe Carreton opted for the hards, obviously thinking that the mediums weren't going to last until that point came across? I'm not sure. Or are they preempting another safety car, Andy? You just never know, do you?
Yeah, you never know, and that's what I love about the strategy. You just never know. Carreton, obviously, yeah, I do believe he thinks that's quicker, going on the medium tyres, the hard tyres. Because what it does, George, is if you're expecting rain later on, it gives you a bigger window. It gives you a bigger window. Right, if it doesn't arrive on this lap, and it arrives 5-6 laps further down the line, it's okay. With the medium runners, if it doesn't arrive, you're in trouble. You're going to be threatening puncture territory. So I can understand why a few drivers have opted for that hard compound, but this will give the medium runners a bigger window now. Because, as I said, the tyres can last longer and the rain will come sooner. So that's going to help them a lot. But interestingly, Louis Welsh has gone on to the soft compound of tyres in the pit stops. Has he got a different weather forecast from everyone else? Perhaps he does.
You never know. I mean, that's a very, very interesting play, certainly by Louis Welch, to jump onto a fresh set of softs. So we'll see what happens. Maybe he's just going for a fastest lap because he knows that probably none of the others are probably going to do it. Because naturally you want to get it in the bag now. That's certainly a Louis Welch method of thinking. There is method in the madness for the pad man. They're down in P16 in the prancing horse of the Ferrari. Alvaro Carreton just over a second gap back from Cookie. Of course, it means nothing at this stage with the safety car being out, but nevertheless, I'm sure he'll be looking to try and give Cookie a hard time. And as they make their way down towards the Casio Triangle chicane, there you can see them all in tandem lining up behind the safety car now, as you can see, the red safety car. And very soon they'll commence yet another lap under its tutelage as they now round it now. You can see them just making their way out to the Casio Triangle chicane. That could be a very dangerous corner heading down into turn 18. If you remember last year, folks, of course, it had a bump in the road last year, which many said that didn't actually feature on the circuit. And I remember that because that made my life it made my life difficult, certainly when I drove with this track, Andy. That bump used to take quite a few cars out, didn't it, on the exit of Casio?
Yeah, the bump isn't really there in real life, but there's a few drivers that have crashed in real life there, so maybe there is a bump, who knows, in real life. But I mean, I can remember Montoya crashing there, I can remember Timo Glock having a heavy crash there as well back in 2009, so, it's certainly a corner that can take a few prisoners, no doubt about it, as the safety car stays out at the minute. I'm just reading in the chat, and this is good information, so thanks very much for this, Stinson. I presume you're watching another driver stream alongside this. He says the last 2 slots, George, at the car setup page are showing light rain, so that should bring rain in this Grand Prix without any doubt, and with this safety car it will drag it in a little bit sooner as well, so that's good stuff.
Yeah, well, I suppose it goes back onto what you were saying. Good news for those on the mediums perhaps then, because naturally it brings it all down in sooner, and maybe we will take a trip onto the intermediates very, very soon. We're already on lap 4 of 27, still a long way to go, and yet we're still under the rules of the safety car, so sorry, say that again, Andy.
There's something quite interesting here, actually. Felipe Sousa, Thomas Harvey and Jari Fitz all pitted under that safety car for a fresh set of hearts. So that almost suggests to me that they still don't think they should jump on the medium tyres. So, there's quite a lot of toing and throwing going on here. A lot of drivers with different opinions on it. Janik Kinshi's come in and put softs on too, and Louis Welsh has gone back off the softs and onto the hard tyres. So a few drivers obviously still think hards are the way to go, even with this safety car. So quite interesting.
Yeah, I have to say that could really make it a little bit choppy in terms of what happens on the classification. Could it be then, in that aspect of things, Andy, that they're thinking about getting those hards to the end of the race?
Perhaps they think the rain might not arrive. I mean, how many times do we see it in real life in Formula 1, George? It's going to rain in 5 minutes. It's going to rain in 5 minutes. It's going to rain in 5 minutes. And 5 minutes becomes 55 minutes and the sun's splitting the sky. So, we'll have to wait and see what happens. It might be going to the end.
Yeah, we certainly will. There's an now round in the final corner yet again, commencing the next lap, lap 5 of 27. Still, Cookie leads them down the straight, and there you can see Caraton in behind. Still very much under the rules of the safety car at this stage, folks. No change yet, and we will wait and see whether the safety car chooses to box this lap. I'd imagine this will be the last lap we have under safety car rules, as all the cars seem to be caught up now. Louis Welch once again in the pit lane. I'm not sure for what reason this time. He's opted for a set of mediums this time. He's going around the houses, Andy.
What next? Is he going to stick a set of intermediates on it? Well, he will be next time he goes through the pit lane, I think. So I think maybe he's trying a challenge. Win the race and use every single compound of tyre during it. So fair play if that's your game plan, Louis. I like it. So every single set of tyre possible in the Pirelli range this weekend. He's gone far away. What's he going to do now, George? Start bringing out the C1, C2, C3, C4, 5 and 6? Is that what he's going to do?
Maybe. I'm starting to wonder whether he's actually doing an exhibition for Pirelli or something like that. I'm not quite sure. We'll have to wait and see. But they're now making their way up towards the next bend at turn 11. And this hairpin, of course, usually we'd see a few cars going wheel to wheel. Obviously, we can't see that under the safety car, unfortunately. Well, we can try, but naturally they'll be penalised if they do that. As they now round the 130R this time, or the 200R, should I say. Rounding it now, heading into Spoon Curve, and still leading the charge is Cookie. Now, this, of course, is going to be very crucial for Jake Benham to get a good start underneath the safety car, because remember, he's currently leading the championship after a successful visit at Bahrain last week, and so naturally, nothing would fit the billing quite like taking another race win, or maybe even another podium, at least getting some really hefty points on the table, because it's always important to get a good start in a championship sense, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely. Very important to get a good start in the championship as the safety car's coming in this lap. Also very important to be extremely consistent, be in the top placings as often as you can. When the field is so tight, consistency is key in a championship battle. And Jake Benham, well aware of that, and he's been a really good start to the season, and at the minute looking good to continue that solid start. I mean, the last thing you want is getting a DNF. There were so many of them last week, George. A DNF and not getting any points can really make your life extremely difficult in a championship battle.
We certainly can, and here comes QVR Cookie. Very shortly he's going to be the safety car as he rounds the final corner now, and very shortly, and he's not waiting around, he's going for it, pedal to the metal for the second time in this Grand Prix. QVR Cookie leading the way and has actually managed to break Alvaro Caraton straight from the get-go into turn 1, but the Spaniard is not done yet, still very much in the midst, 6.5 tenths of a second the difference between the two. You can see Antoine Desilewski as well trying to close up this time on Shanaka Clay, heading up through the snake section, rising in tandem through this very attractive section of the circuit. It's like Strictly Come Dancing around this part of the track, and I have to say they're all looking to close up on each other. Equal differences between them, though the deltas are not too far apart, though I say there is a slight gap between Lenny Papinta and Andreas Dormeyer, Randy.
Oh, big crash at the back, massive crash. Fitz and Chanakinchi are off in a big way. It's like Heifeld and Gianna Lacey back in 2001, or was it Raikkonen and Lacey, I think, back in 01. Chanakinchi off and out of this Grand Prix, and that might even lead to another safety car. Jari Fitz off there as well. Just before that, Christian Sendel went for a spin at the restart through the S's, and it's absolute chaos. Jari Fitz and Chanakinchi getting together through Dunlop, and off they went and into the wall. Jari Fitz somehow able to continue, George, but a big shot in the back.
Yeah, it certainly is. Absolutely not good at all. Certainly on the offset of the safety car. Naturally, though, as the speed all of a sudden picks up, it can be so easy to make a mistake. Here comes Dario Yamulo, though, having a look this time on Samuel Lebert, going wheel to wheel, heading into the Casio Triangle. The AlphaTauri looking to be the alpha male on this occasion, rounding through the bend, looking for the switchback as Caraton lands the fastest lap. Yamulo looking to battle down the outside of the Haas of Samuel Lebert, and certainly trying to stamp its authority, heading up into P9. Dario Yamulo, welcome to the show. Rounds the next right-hander, and his teammate Andreas Dormeyer does it as well. Excellent moves being made from the AlphaTauris. In tandem they go up into the top 10.
Yeah, Liebert just had a big slide going through the S's there just behind him. He must have been shocked. 2 for the price of 1 for the AlphaTauri team as we now lose Jari Fitz from this Grand Prix as well. We will expect quite a few retirements today, just like Spa pre-season, George. This is a track where the curbs are absolutely lethal and you need to be on the ball from the start of the race to the finish, and when the rain comes later it'll make it all the more slippier. But great stuff there from the AlphaTauri team, and Franz Tost will be punching the air with glee.
He certainly will be. He'll be loving it on his pit wall, as you can now see Shanaka Clay as well. I tell you what, the drama does not stop coming here in WOR World Online Racing, folks. Be sure to subscribe and leave a like as well. Check out the socials as well for updated news and all the latest on all the racing action, as we're now watching Shanaka Clay in behind now. Jake Benham getting closer and closer behind the All-Star, both donning the Mercedes engine as they come down now into the next chicane of the Casio Triangle. But still, Shanaka Clay has to just go literally nose to tail with the Black Arrow as they hustle and tussle their way out to that section, rounding turn 18, the final corner. DRS will open up very soon. Shanaka not opening his up. He might not need it as they come down into turn 1. Will he opt to make the move? Sweeping down the inside, Shanaka Clay. Beautiful, majestic, absolutely stunning as they rise out. Shanaka Clay take a bow. Executed, pure class. Excellent from the Aston Martin.
Oh, that was elbows out, and who's that off the track?
Cookie!
That's Cookie! I don't believe it, Cookie! Oh, the Cookie has indeed crumbled. He's in a big moment. Oh, heartbreak for Cookie. He spins it through the S's while leading the race, and he's now all the way down in 12th position. 13th now as he goes side by side with Lefton. Heartache for Cookie. Oh, unbelievable.
Yeah, drama here, and I got to say the re-entry was a bit questionable as well. Got sent right into the middle of the fray, very nearly taking out Lefted as well. You got Lenny Papinta, who's hot on his tail here, and I have to say the Haas is looking a little bit tetchy right now, rounding the next right-hander at 200R in tandem now, and towards Spoon Curve, in behind the Williams, looking to try and find the answer to get past this Haas right now. How often have we seen that in a Formula 1 season? On the outset of Spoon, the Haas of Cookie now making its way down towards the 130R. Look who's behind as well. Padman, fantastic. Louis Welch looking to try and find a way through as he now opts to take the outside line. May opt to make a move now and get to the Casio Triangle. Wheel to wheel potentially. They do go wheel to wheel. Padman, Louis Welch. Oh, he spun it, Andy.
Oh, a disaster for Louis Welch. It was looking like a superb move. Didn't quite work out, and Louis Welch is going for a spin, and he'll have to rejoin the track. And it's now the 2 Ferraris at the back. What a disaster there. It looked like it was going to be a fitting move, and it didn't quite work out for him in the end. Caraton now leads. What a start to this Grand Prix. But look at Shanaka Clay. He's all over the back of him on those faster medium tyres.
Yeah, Aston Martin looking really good in this. I have to say, Antoine Deslewski is hunting all over the rear of Jake Benham. I have to say, it's very spicy up in the top end. Some very, very familiar faces starting to show themselves now at the top end. Valentin Brufair as well, hunting all over the rear of Antoine Deslewski. What a sight to see this is between Aston Martin and Mercedes as well. On top, though, the Williams of Alvaro Caraton. An incredible visit, certainly from the Spaniard, who took the advantage after the onset of Cookie's error, heading through the first sector, and now he's down into P13. Heartbreak certainly for that man after eclipsing many others in qualifying in incredible style as they now rise down now towards 130R yet again. Antoine Deslewski hot on the heels of young Jake Benham, the All-Star, who has really lit things up this season, and after being signed by Veloce Esports, looking to really make good on that as well as they head into the Casio Triangle chicane. On the outset now, powering through into the final corner of turn 18. Is this going to be the chance for Antoine Deslewski to make a move on that man? Jake Benham gets right in the rear, overtake up potentially with the DRS as well. Opts down the inside. No, he's going to stick it behind the Mercedes. Not yet, he says. Not yet. I'm going to be patient. I'll see you again in maybe a lap's time.
Yeah, well, they've just charged that battery up and think about coming back for more in a few moments' time. But it's all closing up very nicely at the front. It's Caraton who leads on the hard tire. Shanaka Clay with that 3-second time penalty. He's sustained earlier on. Then Benham, then Deslewski, then Brufair. Quite the pool of talent at the front of this field. If you're just joining us and you saw qualifying, Cookie was on pole. He lost it, of course, a few laps ago through the SE section. I've touched on it, George. The curves are so dodgy. and it's easy to go for a spin round here, and in this track does not take prisoners, as Valentin Bruffer proves that by picking up a 3-second time penalty of his own, and those penalties could be crucial come the end of this Grand Prix. We're now on lap 10 out of 27. We are expecting some rain at some point in this Grand Prix, but the skies are not darkening just yet. Still a lovely day here in Suzuka.
Yeah, watch out for that cloud cover, folks. Of course, that will be a clear indicator as to where we're going in terms of the weather. And there is Antoine Desilewski once again. Just look at the time delta crashing, cascading downwards as they make their way down towards the Casio Triangle chicane. The Aston Martin looking so potent. Very keen that he gets a good exit out of the chicane now as they round into it now. The Casio Triangle on the onset down to turn 18. You can see him behind as well. Valentin Bruffer after picking up his penalty. Hot on the heels of Antoine as well as they now down through the pit straight. Boxing now. Well past the box. In comes Shanaka Clay instantly down for an outside manoeuvre. Outside line into turn 1, but Benham shuts the door in expert fashion. Shanaka Clay, Antoine Desilewski, sorry, being forced to wait till the very last minute, but Benham did the business. Very well defended.
Yeah, it was well defended, but those curbs are absolutely lethal. Benham nearly losing it there through the S's, just like Cookie did as I was riding on board there with Antoine Desilewski, and that was nearly another car from this leading group going for a spin, but he keeps it on the island just about. Desilewski, he tried that outside line, George, but it's so risky to try and sweep round the outside there, and to be honest, the lead car's just going to squeeze you right up against the edge of the racetrack, and it's always going to be hard. You just really need to try and get yourself right alongside, otherwise you can forget it through that section of the racetrack. It's quite the battle. It's holding up very nicely at the front.
Yeah, definitely. Still all in tandem. Nothing's changed, folks, since, of course, that spin from Cookie, who is now down into P12. He's managed to raise himself from P13, at least. Obviously, we've lost a few in this race. Probably not as many as we would have thought, because there are a few comments before the race that a lot of the drivers weren't overly confident heading into this one. Obviously, with the coping with the middle sector, especially with the Degners, of course, that high-speed couple of right-handers that you have to face. That's where we generally do see a lot of incidents. But as they now power out of the Casio Triangle chicane, what a stunning shot there, that helicopter cam as the cars rise through. Jake Benham looking very quick this time. Of course, this time Antoine Desilewski is not hot on his tail, and he's managed to actually bring the deficit away. In fact, if anyone's gaining, it's Shanaka Clay, and he's gaining really hot on the rear of Alvaro Caraton, very nearly nose to tail through turn 1.
Yeah, he's pushing hard. He does look very quick out there at the minute. Shanaka Clay still on those medium tyres. Of course, they've not done 11 full racing laps on them. They've not done a qualifying lap on them either, because they've had a few laps behind the safety car. So even though it tells you he's done 11 laps on them, don't expect them to be past their sell-by date just yet, because, of course, safety car and no qualifying lap on them either, as we had a wet qualifying session, so he should still have a little bit more pace than Alvaro Caraton at the minute, and I think he fancies his chances of taking the lead of this Grand Prix and leaving some of these hard tyre runners behind for a couple of laps, because he's got an opportunity here to try and sprint clear. His nearest medium runner is Valentin Bruffer in 5th position, so Shanaka Clay will be thinking about a move, but so well Antoine Desilewski. Both Aston Martins are absolutely flying here this afternoon, and Desilewski looks very close behind the back of Jake Benham. And are we going to see a move on this lap? Lap 12 now out of 27 here at the legendary Suzuka circuit, and it's still Caraton in the lead as they now make their way down towards that final chicane. Is Shanaka Clay going to go for it on this lap as they make their way through that chicane and now through the final corner? No bump this year, as we touched on in qualifying, and here we go. He uses the ERS, opens up the DRS. It's a fastest lap of the Grand Prix for Shanaka Clay, and he's gaining. Alvaro Caraton goes to defend. Clay round the outside, he gives him the squeeze, and Caraton stays just in front for one more lap, but Clay is all over him, George.
He certainly is, right in the rear of the Williams, certainly just behind the rear wing there. You can see the Aston Martin colours glazing in the sunlight here in Japan, and Suzuka providing us with a spectacle, no less. But look at that, Shanaka Clay breaking the DRS on Jake Benham in behind. How key is that, Andy? A second is now the deficit between the Mercedes and the Aston Martin.
Two things it tells us, George. The mediums are quicker at the minute. That's the first thing it tells us. And if Clay can get ahead of Caraton, he might even have the chance to break away. The other thing it tells you is that Antoine Desilewski is going to be fancying his chances behind Jake Benham now, because Benham won't have the DRS to defend with. So unless he can squeeze his way back in within a second, he's trying to. He's down at 10% in the battery. He's doing everything he can to try and cling on to that DRS, but I think he might struggle to keep it as Shanaka Clay is ready to pounce behind Caraton. Here he goes again, using that battery up to close in. I think Caraton is in trouble here. I think Clay can smell blood. He's seeing that gap building to Benham, and he sees an opportunity to take the lead from Caraton and perhaps sprint away. So let's see what happens on this lap. He was very close on the previous lap. What about on lap 14? We're about to start it. We're just going beyond half distance here. And are we about to see a change of leadership as Shanaka Clay opens up the DRS? He's gaining once again. Caraton again defends the inside. Clay thinks about the outside, but he can't get it done. And Desilewski is ahead of Jake Benham in front.
Great move by Anton Desilewski as well to capitalise on all the craziness, but the deficit has drawn out so far now. Shanaka Clay is now a gap of 1.5 seconds ahead of his team. Anton Desilewski, who's now in P3. Jake Benham relegated to P4 ahead of Valentin Brufair as well. Two Mercedes still very much in the fray, but remember, you've got Benham going the longer on the hard tyres. The question is, where does the strategy figure coming into the end of this race? We've still got another 13 laps from the end. Plenty can happen. Of course, we've spoken about the cloud cover coming over. Of course, rain expected towards the end of this Grand Prix. Caraton, though, in expert fashion, defending from Shanaka Clay, who's currently 0.4 of a second in behind him now as well. The other Aston Martin doing bits after setting the fastest lap on medium tyres. I have to say, he's looking dangerous, Andy.
He's looking very, very dangerous. Will it be third time lucky for Shanaka Clay? He's been threatening for a number of laps now as he gains once again on the back of the Spaniard Alvaro Caraton through 130 on he goes. He looks confident, even happy to take some of the curb through there with Shanaka Clay. Now can he set this one up? It's all about getting a nice exit and then a little squeeze of the button on the DRS, a little bit of ERS as well to help him across the start-finish line. Caraton parks it in the middle of the road, moves back to the left. Clay looking, dancing and diving. He's going down the inside. Oh, that was absolutely unbelievable from Shanaka Clay, trying desperately at the last moment to get through. He couldn't quite manage it, and Caraton just holds on. Goodness me, George, heart and mouth moment there.
Yeah, heart in mouth stuff for sure, Andy. I have to say, getting so close and doing his all. I have to say, he's knocking on the door but cannot find a way through. And I have to say, brilliant work by Caraton. He's absolutely tremendous. And already you can see, look at the tyre graphic. Alvaro Caraton marshalling those hards to absolute perfection, almost putting a huge hole in Shanaka Clay's strategy here. He's got 40% wear on those mediums now. Very shortly, Caraton's tyres are going to be OP. They're going to be at full strength, giving Caraton the best opportunity in this race to certainly take control. I have to say, Andy, if he keeps this up, I can't see past the Apex Predator.
Yeah, he's doing a fantastic job of ruining Shanaka Clay's race. That's why Shanaka Clay looks so desperate to get the move done. That's why he took such a major risk into that first corner, dancing and diving, and then going for the inside. If he didn't back out, it was going to be a crash. We were talking Senna Prost stuff here, but incredible. He did not run into Caraton. What about this time round? Can he get the run he needs? He's draining the battery. That's the problem, though, and he's not going to have much to fight with pretty soon. I think Alvaro Caraton, for now, has ridden out the storm, and Shanaka Clay once again is not going to get close enough into turn one. He's drained the battery down to 10%, and Caraton, master stroke here up to this point of the Grand Prix. It won't be long before he starts pulling away from him.
Yeah, I get the feeling, Andy, that previous lap was his best chance to do it. I think now he's put himself in a very, very tricky situation. He's almost stuck on a desert island with nowhere to go. He has no grip left, or certainly emerging on those mediums that can be utilised to overtake Alvaro Caraton, who's really marshalled him expertly on hard tyres, and that's the difference. Experience difference. Caraton, who's been on the esports scene now for many, many years, proving us and showing us as to why he is just that. The Williams driver with an expert drive here so far in P1, marshalling Shanaka Clay to the absolute extent that he's wearing out those medium tyres. An incredible lap there. It's like a boxer going in between the ropes, almost dodging it, a bit like the rope-a-dope that Muhammad Ali would do, saying, all right, here's the gap, go for it, shuts the door last minute, again executing more and more tyre wear on Shanaka Clay's car. It's absolutely phenomenal to watch this battle of the battle of the minds through this race. Just goes to show it's not all about pace, Andy, but it's also about your smarts as well.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Caraton's ridden the storm now because even Dezaluski's getting back within DRS range to his teammate. So, and you can tell that Caraton's still 6-7 tenths up the road. He has done what he needed to do to set himself up for a chance at victory this afternoon. It's excellent from Caraton. Just a side comment, George. I absolutely love this Grand Prix today because I can be quite critical at times of the racing and esports because at times they just sit there and wait for the final few laps before they throw the kitchen sink at it. And, you know, it's just simple DRS pass after simple DRS pass, and often, you know, they're just saving the battery. Not today, because today, on a track like this where it's difficult to overtake and there's rain coming later, the battle is now. It's not in the final few laps of the Grand Prix. So I'm loving it, seeing it from the start of the Grand Prix to the finish. Ferocious fighting from Clay and Caraton, and it's great to see in the lead.
Yeah, and I do have to wonder now that Shanaka Clay might be feeling the pinch, Andy. Can you see that great indicator? His teammate Antoine Dezaluski has broken into the second gap now, only 8 tenths away from Shanaka Clay. Are the mediums finally wearing off? Has Caraton's defending finally sunk that Aston Martin's plans to try and utilise them in order to take control of the race? Has that finally come to an end? Because Antoine Dezaluski now looking far more dangerous between the pairing as they come down now towards 130R yet again, this time on lap 17. 10 laps remain in this Grand Prix, folks. Hope you're all enjoying it there at home. Please ensure, like I said before, leave a like and a subscribe. Stay up to date with everything WOR, because we're going to keep you updated with all the drama that's being had on this track here tonight as they come round the final corner of turn 18, down the long paddock straight. Still no change at the top. Cookie, though, overtaking his teammate and moving up into P9 ahead of Thomas Harvey.
Yeah, and it was a little bit of contact there between he and Liebert as well. The two Haas teammates, Günther Steiner, put a couple of pennies in the swear jar box, I think, as Samuel Liebert has actually come into the pits, George. So I wonder what tyre he's going on. Is he maybe thinking there won't be any rain? Because I think he's going on a set of softs. Wow.
Yeah, bold claim here from Samuel Liebert, and that again furthers, or at least irons out my thoughts that those on the hard tyres are planning on going to the end, Andy. Now that would be massive for Thomas Harvey. Remember, he is brilliant when it comes to strategy. Do you remember at that race at Belgium where he looked to have them all hoodwinked? He might have done the same here today. Can he take those hards all the way to the end? That is the big, bold question. He certainly has got the tyre life. The question is, will the rain be an impact?
Yeah, will it be? But it's not just him. Dario Emilio, as well as Samuel Liebert, as we talked about, and Dylan Warren, they've all also stuck a set of soft compound tyres on it. So that suggests that maybe there isn't any rain coming, and it's just been like in real life Formula 1. The rain's coming. No, it's not. Well, there are a few of these medium runners, a few more of them, going to have to bail out of the strategy and pit now to maximise putting on softs. We'll have to wait and see what will the likes of Clay, Prefer, Parnell and Dormeyer do over the next couple of laps. Let's wait and see. Is Clay coming in? No sign of it. He's staying out. They're praying for rain on the medium compound tyre.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're just trying to wait and see what happens out on track. Thomas Harvey, though, overtaking QVR Cookie himself, landing a P9 on the hard tyres. He certainly is filled with confidence right now and heading down the pit straight and managing to get into that P9 spot, that coveted spot. He is now only 7 tenths of a second in behind that man. Lenny Papinta has to defend, though, against QVR Cookie, who did, I think, have a little bit of a nose heading around turn 1, but not this time, he says. Thomas Harvey out on the hard tyres, looking to take them certainly as deep into the race as he possibly can, but he will be, I'm sure, one of the factors in at the end of the race if the rain doesn't come down as dramatically as what we think.
Yeah, absolutely. It will be a big factor. We'll have to wait and see how it pans out. Thomas Harvey could be sitting in a fine position here, potentially even a podium with a couple of the penalties up the road, as we now have lost Louis Welch. And if that brings a safety car out, no, I think he's retired in the pit, so it shouldn't. But if it did, that would really hurt the hard tyre runners. Let's wait and see what happens from this moment on. But it looks like there's not going to be any sign of a safety car in this Grand Prix. But Caraton continues to lead 7 tenths the gap to Shanaka Clay in second. He's holding him off. Is that rain going to come? It certainly looks like it's a little darker out there, George. A little bit more cloud cover, but no sign of rain, no sign of the fans reaching for the brollies and the ponchos just yet here at Suzuka.
No, not at all. They're still very much queued up right now. The DRS train still very much lit up across this classification. Just look at the delta times between the top 7, all of them within DRS right now as they cascade through the long straight once again. Valentine Brufair currently hot on the heels of his teammate Jake Benham, and I have to say he's done really, really well on those medium tyres that of course have gone quite long into this race. Shanaka Clay doing exactly the same, in fact getting very close to the rear end of Alvaro Caraton, bringing that deficit in once again as Thomas Harvey once again makes a grandiose overtake, this time on the unfortunate victim, Lenny Papinta, on the mediums. And those hards are certainly coming to life now, Andy. He's using them well.
Yeah, he is. He's loving it out there. And there is the rain. It's starting to fall, George. Rain coming down on the commentary box window here. The fans are reaching for the ponchos, and the medium runners, their prayers have been answered. Lap 20 out of 27, we have some moisture coming from the skies, and those hard tyre runners will be a little bit worried about that. But Caraton won't be too worried. He's still got the track position on Shinaka Clay regardless, so he's looking pretty good. But the rain has arrived and the medium drivers will be spared, but will they run into a puncture before it's wet enough, George?
Well, that's the question. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, naturally now, this is when the drivers need to execute their own brand of intelligence and try and work out what is the best strategy, what will be the OP point of them optimising their performance in this race. We'll have to wait and see. And certainly as Caraton now hustles down into the Casio Triangle chicane, we've only got 7 laps till the end. And I tell you what, this could all change up in a heartbeat, Andy. This is one of the most dramatic finishes we have had. Of course, Bahrain was in its own fashion, very, very dramatic, but this is on a different scale. This has different factors listed upon it. This is all about pit stop strategy and different tyre compounds. Who's going to be the bravest man on track to make the first call to pit? Of course, Caraton's got to do it at some point. He is yet to box, so does Clay. In fact, if you're in the top 7 right now, you must be feeling really nervous at this moment in time. I bet they don't know what to pick, Andy.
They don't know what to pick, but the most nervous of them all will be Alvaro Caraton, because he is the first driver to arrive on the scene of the conditions. So the likes of Shinaka Clay and Antoine Desaluski and Jake Benham right behind him can all use each other as a reference for the braking point. Caraton arrives on the scene. He's got to, guess really where to stop, and this is where the drivers really show their skill. And Shinaka Clay maybe fancies a chance to get a look at him, get a run at him, and maybe try and make the move before they change to intermediate tyres, if they even do change to intermediate tyres. What's to say the rain doesn't fall heavy enough to change the tyres, but it's certainly getting a lot more slippery out there, and Clay running a little bit wide there through Spoon. They were carrying too much speed for that corner, for the grip that's on the racetrack at the minute, but it's closing up. We've got it off halfway.
Yeah, Dario Yamulo off, heading around turn 11, and he's lost out. He made a move on Felipe Souza. Is the track getting slippery? He's out on fresh softs, Andy. He's out on fresh softs. Is that a telling point here in this race?
Yeah, I tell you what's a telling point. Antoine Desaluski is all over the back of Shinaka Clay, and he will want to be the first man to pit, but he can't, because in comes Clay and Caraton. So that means Desaluski will have to do a full lap on a semi-wet racetrack. Will he be able to keep it on the island? Wow!
Well, I have to say, this is it now, folks. Clay has already bolted on a set of inters. What about that man, Thomas Harvey, who looked to maybe... Yeah, he's boxed as well, Andy. Thomas Harvey, the strategy now is for naught. He's got to box to a set of intermediates. The rain is coming down thick and fast. Water across the circuit. Anton Desaluski in real trouble here, Andy.
Says Brufair, he's also had to stay out, so 2 of them are going to have to tippy-toe around the track. Daniel Yumilo has retired from this Grand Prix. We're down to just 14 runners as Antoine Desaluski slipping and sliding his way around this racetrack. Is he going to get it back to the pits? It's so easy to make a mistake round here on those extremely wet white lines and curbs, and you could throw away a big hat full of points. He's just got to be careful and nurse this car back to the pits, as has Brufair. Caraton has come out well ahead of Clay. He's got a second cushion as well, which is also crucial.
Yeah, he certainly does. That is absolutely massive. We'll have to wait and see now. Can Caraton bring it in closer and closer? This is what will happen now. Antoine will box. Now, he needs to get out now ASAP. DRS is gone. DRS is gone. That's a telling point indeed. The track is absolutely sodden with water here, and the grip is certainly must be feeling really treacherous there for Antoine Desaluski. Oh, the tail of the car looking very playful at the rear there. You have to wonder whether he might be in trouble heading around the Casio Triangle. And again, look at him. He is struggling to find the apex there, given the wet weather, and certainly the tyres not activating the way he would like them to out on this track. And already, Dario Yamula, we lost him.
No, it's Brufair coming into the pits, George. He almost crashed on the way in. The back end was all over the place, but he's got in there. They've both got in there, and they've survived to live for another day. But at what cost, though? They're going to be well down the order, surely.
Yeah, they certainly will do. Now Alvaro Carreton crossing said paddock, and he will take the absolute lead of this race now. Pit stop supplied. He leads this Japanese Grand Prix here at WOR. In behind as well, Shanaka Clay, still very much in the fight. Jake Benham has risen up into P3 himself. Andreas Dormeyer, what a drive from the Alpha Tauri, getting up into P4 ahead of Anton Desilewski, Andy. A great strategy from him.
Yes, absolutely incredible for Dormeyer. What a race he is having here. The second half has just come to life for him. Desilewski rejoins the track in 5th then, and it's only 7th for Valentin Brufel with a penalty to add to his woes as well, of course. So things not looking good for him. Shanaka Clay is absolutely flying out there. He was over a second back. He's now within 5-6 tenths. Is he going to give us a late show and go attacking on Alvaro Carreton?
He's a king in the wet, Andy. That's why I tipped him, and he looks ever so good right now. And rounding the next right-hander, he certainly is carrying some beautiful traction. Here comes Shanaka Clay. Now bringing the deficit down by the moment. He's very nearly at 5/10 of a second, the gap between him and Alvaro Carreton. This could prove magic here for this man, Shanaka Clay. Coming down now out of Spoon Curve. Bombing it down the stretch now through the 130R. Alvaro Carreton holding on for all he's worth, but a very imposing threat. Shanaka Clay looking oh so dangerous here in these wet weather conditions. Down into the Casio Triangle chicane now. They're just going to feather the throttle, just ease around the brakes, heading around these very tricky bends. Now rounding turn 18. Shanaka Clay knows that if he can utilise some of the battery, he can get the move down early. He knows he's quicker. Heading down into turn 1 now. Can he find the pace? No, not this time. He's going to stick it behind, but I'm watching him, and I have to say, Andy, he's looking absolutely dangerous right now.
Yeah, he's looking very quick. The saving grace though for Carreton, no DRS in the wet conditions. And on this racetrack, without DRS, it will be very, very difficult for Shanaka Clay to get through. He is going to have to get very inventive, perhaps into the hairpin, perhaps even try it into 130R or Spoon maybe even. Go on, let us know in the comments, who do you think is going to win this race, and do you think Shanaka Clay will get inventive and try and move somewhere else, maybe even into the hairpin on this very lap? Let's see then as they go underneath 130R and now down towards the hairpin. He's nowhere near close enough, but look how late on the brakes he is. It's almost as if that's a trial run, George. He's maybe thinking, if I can get closer to Detector 2, I might have a lunge up the inside into that hairpin, because it's going to be so hard to make a move into turn 1 or into the Casio Triangle.
Yeah, there's nothing between them, Andy. Literally just over 5.5 tenths the difference between them. Incredible stuff indeed. 6 tenths now it's going out. They're just literally whittling around the Spoon Curve now. And Carreton, who can see that menacing green livery in behind, I have to say, is absolutely sensational. Being the Grinch here, Shanaka Clay in green. Round in the next left, very shortly trying to spoil the day that could be like Christmas for Alvaro Carreton. Heading down into the next chicane here at the Casio Triangle. Heading out now onto turn 18. Still Carreton owns the lead right now. But Clay, still that imposing figure in the mirrors of Carreton, and Carreton knows all about him, Andy. They've come together in Esports Pro Series racing, but now they come together in league racing. Who's got the bottle to withstand the next 2 laps?
Dormeyer and Desilewski very, very close as well, George. Desilewski all over the back of Dormeyer, so much so he clipped him into the first corner. No sign of any damage though on Antoine Desilewski. He looks clearly quicker, and I don't think we'll be too far from seeing a move there in the next few moments. So let's see if we can follow Desilewski up the hill through Dunlop, probably the most difficult corner on the racetrack. Glide on entry, uphill through that left-hander, understeer, and you're in the grass or gravel. Here comes Desilewski then. Now, I genuinely think this is an opportunity, George, into the hairpin. If you just squirt the ERS battery here and give it a little go and maybe try and get close enough on one occasion, it might catch somebody out. So maybe Desilewski would try it. What about Shanaka Clay? Where else can you try it? It's going to be so hard to overtake, but I do believe it might be worth a gamble down the inside into that corner, but it could end quite easily in tears, no doubt about it.
Yeah, certainly around a track such as this, with conditions such as this, Andy, it's a very treacherous prospect. And as they round Spoon Curve now, Antoine Desilewski, though, finding some really nice traction on the outset of Spoon. And look who's behind as well, Liam Parnell, who's also a very quick driver in his own right, coming down towards the 130R. Andreas Dormeyer still owning on to that P4 spot. Lefted gets a 3-second time penalty. The Aston Martin of Antoine, though, just in behind, locked on the tail of the AlphaTauri coming into the next chicane at the Casio Triangle. Out now at turn 18. Shanaka Clay still 6 and a bit tense in behind Alvaro Caraton. Antoine now can sense danger as he now rises his way through the paddock straight, comes in towards turn 1. Can he find a way through? No, he's going to sit in behind. Maybe, oh no, very close to the rear. Gone so close to the rear of Andreas Dormeyer. The AlphaTauri and both him and the Aston Martin very nearly losing it in the first sector, Andy.
Yeah, he hit him on the last lap, didn't quite clip him this time round. But let's see what Desilewski's got up his sleeve this time for the middle sector. Surely it's worth a gamble somewhere else on the racetrack for one of these drivers to maybe try and change the tactics. Here he goes then, he's already using the ERS to try and get closer towards that first Degner. He needs to throw it in here and now get a fantastic exit out of Degner too, and he's pretty close. Go on then, go for it, try and use that ERS. He is using the ERS. Is he going to go for a lunge? Nope, he's not, but look at that, so much more confident on the brake pedal is Antoine Desilewski. Go on, someone go for it, someone take a risk. Try and go for a move into that hairpin. I'm sure it might work for someone, but it's so hard to get close, George.
Certainly is. Shanaka Clay as well, just rounding Spoon Curve in hot pursuit of Alvaro Caraton. And this is a lead that has been certainly been battled over now for quite some time here in this wet weather. It's been absolutely tantalising. The best in the business fighting it out. Lefted has retired. We've lost Lefted as they come around the next left-hander now, coming down towards the Casio Triangle once again. And certainly they'll be starting the final lap. And Shanaka Clay, who's got it all to do right now, really needs to lay it all on the line here. Stack all the chips in the centre of the table, because we're about to start the final lap in this WOR, a Japanese Grand Prix here at the Suzuka International Circuit. Pleasure to be here, folks, bringing you all the action as they round turn 1 now. Caraton on top with Shanaka Clay in hot pursuit. Andy, he's got to go for it.
Yeah, he's got to go for it, but he's drained the battery. I don't think there's going to be any way that he's going to get a go at Alvaro Caraton unless Caraton makes a mistake. So for Shanaka Clay, it's all about driving a perfect final lap and trying to put as much pressure as he can on the Williams driver. Can he do that though? It's going to be very, very, very difficult. Let's see then, as he goes through the first and second Degner. Is he going to get close enough? Not really. He's a long way back at the minute, and Caraton, I think, has survived any potential attack from Shanaka Clay, and he's looking very, very good.
Yeah, he certainly is. Anton Desilewski also looking very quick, trying to end his race on a high as well, trying to chase down Andreas Dormeyer. Liam Parnell, as we said before, has actually lost a little bit of time. He's now down a second on his previous lap, so I'm not sure whether he made a mistake, but he has lost time. And in fact, it looks like Valentin Bruffair looks like a more of a danger to him, in fact, as they round up now towards Spoon Curve. There you can see them both in tandem. Alvaro Caraton still on top, though, as they come through the second half of Spoon. Caraton now hustling and bustling down through the 130R. We were drenched in rain here at Japan. We saw some absolutely hellacious stuff in qualifying. 1,000 subscribers here in today's stream at WOR. The best of racing is certainly set to be here in World Online Racing, but the Spaniard will take gold. Caraton is your winner of the Japanese Grand Prix. In what dramatic fashion with the weather changing conditions. Benham takes P2, given a penalty from Shanaka Clay. I'm sure that will be looked at. Shanaka Clay comes home on track in P3, with him behind Andreas Dormeyer. A brilliant P4 after a very, very treacherous start to the race, with Antoine Desilewski coming home in P5 after that really difficult in-lap. While the rain was on, he had hard tyres on, but he managed to rescue his race. P5 is where he lay, Andy.
Yeah, he's done well to recover and get fit, but what a race from Dormeyer, what a race from Caraton. He won that Grand Prix before the rain even arrived. It was excellent management of the hard compound tyre, excellent defensive driving to hold back Shanaka Clay when he was on the quicker mediums, and that's what won him the Grand Prix. Special mention to Cookie though, he'll be absolutely gutted. The cookie has been crumbled, unfortunately. But 10th place and only 1 point for him. But what it could have been for him, George. He was out at the front, leading the Grand Prix, and we've seen how quick he was in the wet when the rain arrived. So he'll be absolutely devastated, won't he?
Oh, heartbroken, Andy. I mean, he was the quickest out on track in qualifying, and that just shows the outright pace of the guy, which is absolutely, absolutely hellacious. I mean, give him the credit. Just could not do it in the race. Naturally, that is where it all needs to come into fruition. Not only do you need pace, but you also need the measure of racecraft in order to keep the car on the track, certainly in difficult scenarios. He lost it around Sector 1, and Caraton, he's not going to make a mistake, and that's exactly why he is your winner of the Japanese Grand Prix, ladies and gentlemen. What a race we had, folks, and 1,000 subscribers on the broadcast, which I have to say is absolutely phenomenal. We're just going to go through the final classifications, folks. Alvaro Caraton, the Spaniard, the Apex Predator, is your winner after starting P2, finishes P1 in great style. Jake Benham comes home into P2 with Shanaka Clay in P3, Andreas Dormeyer P4, Antoine Desalewski in P5 with Liam Parnell P6, Valentine Brufair in P7, Thomas Harvey, great drive, P13 up into P8, Lenny Papinta in P9, QBR Cookie after the heartbreak of spinning in the initial stint of the race, down into P10 after snatching pole position, Souza P11, P12 for Christian Sendel, Samuel Lebert who finished P13, Lefted who was a retirement as well, Yamulo, Louis Welch, Warren, Fitz, Kinchy and Hawk all out of the race. But incredible, folks. Absolutely mesmeric performance from that man, Alvaro Caraton. He just did not look fussed at all. Did not even look like he was in any stretch of danger, Andy.
Absolutely, George. He certainly was before the rain arrived, and that's what I said at the time, didn't I? I mean, that was the battle there. That's when the race was fierce. And usually, as I say, in esports, it's usually the last few laps, they're all saving their battery. They don't want to take too many risks and knock front wings off before that. And then they're not in the battle at the end. But the battle came in the middle part of the race today. The track position was key when that rain arrived, because as we saw, it was so difficult to overtake and even get close. Because, of course, no DRS, or in a track like Japan, it is so tough, and he was never in danger. As soon as he exited the pits, there was a wee moment where the gap came down and you thought, okay, Shanaka Clay looks really good here, but no, he had it covered, and had it covered with ease. I looked at his battery, George, on the final lap. Shanaka Clay was down at 3-4%. He's still at 30% to play with Caraton. He was fine. He was not under any danger whatsoever. Shanaka Clay gave it his best shot, but he came up short. And it's a great way for Caraton to bounce back after last week, because he looked so strong. He looked a certainty to win the race last week, George, and it all fell apart. But yeah, he's going to be delighted with that. A good result, and 25 points in the bag, and gets his championship up and running at the second attempt. But yeah, a really good performance from Alvaro Caraton.
Yeah, absolutely superb. And he deserves all the plaudits as well, of course. He has been absolutely relentless here today at WOR. And I have to say, it doesn't matter that some of these guys aren't quite at esports yet. Bear in mind, there's only 20 cars to fill when it comes down to F1 esports. And actually, there's a lot of talent that does not get picked up. And I have to say that the actual deficit between each of these drivers is very minimal. You still need to be at your best on your day to win these races. And if anything, it's more dangerous, because a lot of these young guys have got a point to prove. They all want to show what they can do, because you just don't know who's watching any esports team. They all take great interest in league racing, and this is why we're at this spot now where the likes of WOR and PSGL have now hit the higher echelons, and you're now seeing them, really show their stuff. We get to see the best in the business every single week take to the stage and certainly try and give us the best that they have to offer. And tonight, I think we saw that again. But Caraton, with all that experience, was it just an experienced driver's drive here today, Andy? Was that the case? Was it just a case of using your noodle and applying the car where necessary in very treacherous conditions?
I mean, I think experience certainly helps, George. And I think it does say a lot, because Cookie does not have the same experience as Alvaro Caraton, and he made the mistake and went off the track. And I'm gutted for him, and he ended up finishing in 10th. But experience does tell. And, it's undervalued at times by a lot of people. Everybody thinks it's all about outright speed, outright pace, racecraft. But, experience is a big part of it, because it can lend its hand in your racecraft and in your actual pace too, as well as just your knowledge, not making mistakes, and how you call the strategy. And Caraton called the strategy right. Hard tyre was the way to go, and he never made any mistakes, and defended very well with his racecraft too against Shanaka Clay. So, yep, experience is a big part of it, no doubt about it. A fine drive, fine performance, and yes, he really did show his class today, didn't he? Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, would you say that you saw the contrasts in approaches today? Because naturally, I think Cookie, who looked to have all the pace in the world in qualifying, then stick him in a racing environment, just maybe the composure got to him slightly, maybe or should I say the discomposure more like, and then you've got the stark contrast of Alvaro Caraton, who utilised that experience and managed the race from the get-go. Would you say that pretty much sums it up on that basis?
I wouldn't say it was an approach in terms of how they approached the race. I mean, I think they all approached it pretty similarly, but I think certainly in his mind, George, Cookie's like, oh my goodness, This is how I would feel. I don't know how he feels. I can't put myself in his position. But if it was me, oh my God, I've just rocked up into WOR. I've put the thing on poll. I've got all these talents right behind me. I can't make a mistake here. Oh, and then of course he's gone and made the mistake. So I wouldn't say it's an approach, but again, it all comes back to experience and handling the pressure. So yeah, I mean, it is certainly a major reason why it didn't quite work out for Cookie. But he'll learn from these mistakes. You go through the rough times, George. Everyone does. Nobody's perfect. Nobody comes in and wins everything and just doesn't have hard times. And Cookie had a tough lesson today, but I'm sure he'll learn from it and he'll come back stronger.
Yeah, he certainly will, folks. I don't think we're going to get any interviews today, folks, but I just want to say a big message from me, folks. Of course, Andy, I'm sure, will agree as well. Amazing that tonight we hit, after a grandiose race, lots of action, 1,000 subscribers for World Online Racing tonight, which is a mega achievement, certainly for all the team. And, myself and Andy, we had a big plan coming into this project with WOR. We really wanted to turn up the heat, really bring something extra, something spicy to league racing. And we have done exactly that with a dedicated team in behind that works so hard to give you some of the best racing you can find on the planet. And certainly here tonight, I think that pretty much showed, I have to say. But a massive thank you. And I've been led to believe that we have actually smashed that number. In fact, we've gone right into the 1,000, well into the 1,000s anyway. So thank you all so much for all your support. I would like to say as well, a big thank you to everybody for tuning in. We hit a constant live viewing of over 150 live viewers here tonight, which was absolutely sensational and certainly a testament to your belief in sim racing and league racing. And we hope that long may it continue, of course, and we can continue to bring you the best in the business each and every week here on the WR platform, and also through other many leagues as well that are gracing us with their presence too. But Andy, a few comments from you as well. I mean, obviously unfathomable scenes. We've actually managed to smash that record tonight.
Oh, it's great. It's fantastic, George. And as you said, we come in here, we really wanted to spice up the show and help out. But it's not just us, as you said as well, everything behind the scenes. But the drivers too, giving us a great show both weeks. Both last week and this week in totally different races. And it's great to see. And the whole league racing community is really on the rise at the minute. You've seen what's happened in PSGL. It's incredible what they've achieved. And we want to put WR on the same path. And it's a good start. And things are looking up for the league. And there's a bright future ahead for the league. And they deserve it because everyone behind the scenes is working very hard. And as George said, I echo what he said about you guys. It's great to have you all tuning in and enjoying the action, engaging in the chat, giving us your opinions, because we can bounce off that in the commentary box, and it really helps us form a narrative for the Grand Prix as well. So thanks very much everyone for your support, and thanks very much for subscribing. It's really appreciated by everyone here at WOR.
Yeah, passion before fashion, folks. That is my tagline. I will live it till I die. I have to say, incredible stuff indeed. If you haven't checked it out already, folks, remember you can check out the socials for WOR World Online Racing as well. And the Twitter tag is at WOR League. Make sure you check it out. Drop them a follow as well. Stay up to date with all the action that is due to come up on the WOR platform, World Online Racing, that is as well. You can also check out myself and Andy as well. Me, of course, being George Morgan. You can find me on Twitter at George Morgan TV. And Andy, hit us up with your tag, if you please.
Yep, down below, Ginger Andy F1 on Twitter for all your commentary needs.
Yeah, there you go, folks. So I have to say, what a pleasure it was to bring you all the action. Alvaro Caraton, the Apex Predator, strikes here. His first win in WOR on the PC platform. Amazing stuff indeed. And the championship is going to get spicy. We'll see you next week, folks. Do not forget, 7 o'clock every week on a Sunday. We'll see you there. Goodbye.
Antoine is going to be crowned your WOR Season 10 champion.
And history's been made. Ballina, the first WOR PS4 champion. What a championship! What a season! Phenomenal.